tires. Start your engines!
Ready. Green flag required. Oh. All the way out. Stay in. Come on. Bye-bye, these guys are really good. Keep digging. Stay in the gas. Hang on, dude, baby. You did not hit a thing. Why are you waiting so long, man? Bottom for clear chasing you down here. White flag. Hit your mark.
And welcome in, everybody. Zoom call being on might be a good thing here. Dude is trying to escape.
Welcome in, everybody.
And I can hear somebody has it playing either on their speaker or something.
I think
we're good.
We're good?
Yes.
Okay, we're good. we waited all that time. We are still all good. So welcome in. 24 hours late, our first weather delayed podcast. But we are all in and good. The lizard is running away. I'm just, come on, dude. Here she is, permanent smile on her face, trying to run away. So we're gonna put her down here and
one of the several official podcast mascots at this point.
Of course,
we're gonna get a mascot from like every part of the animal kingdom. We've got an amphibian or a reptile. What is he?
A cat lizard? Right here.
Yeah, so we've got a mammal. We've got what the hell is it? It's a reptile, right? Lizards are reptiles.
Yes, they are.
We need to get a fish. And we need to get a bird.
Well, technically, birds are dinosaurs, so we'll have a dinosaur on the team.
If you just follow me on all my social media, you'll see me with plenty of fish to make up for the lack of fish on the show.
But welcome in, everybody, to the late edition of NWP, and we have a special guest today. This is Grant from Auto Racing Analytics. He is also the data analyst for Legacy Motor Club. So, kind of introduce yourself. How'd you get in there? All good?
I think his audio right, he's had audio issues. I think he's got.
I got you on now. I didn't catch the last about 20 seconds, but I got you back.
All good. But yeah, we were just saying you're the one who runs the account Auto Racing Analytics, and you're the data analyst for Legacy Motor Club. So kind of tell everybody how you got in on that.
Yes, sir. So it would have been February 2022. David Smith, a few of you may know who that is, just signed his deal to stop doing motorsports analytics and go to RFK. And I, being a high school senior and bored in my English class, decided to try to figure out how to make the data myself because I knew I was going to miss it. And Auto Racing Analytics was born that day, and started the Twitter account in English class and learned how to make all the statistics similar to what he was doing, median lap rank, restart data. Today that's progressed to passing data as well as a few other things. Started a website, and it's been go from there. And then would have been May of last year, I started direct messaging a bunch of teams on Twitter, race team owners, drivers, crew chiefs, anybody that followed the Twitter account that didn't know what the account was, and basically said, hey, I just started college. I'm a computer science major and I'd like a job. And I was able to get an interview with Team Penske, but that did not end up working out. But they referred me over to Legacy Motor Club, and they hired me over the phone. And so last summer I moved to North Carolina, worked full-time for them. And now I'm back in school again here in Nebraska. Still working part-time doing data analytics for them. I work closely with Trevor Bain doing a lot of driver optimization and simulator work.
That's so fascinating. Yeah, that's
awesome.
Fascinating to me. And that's like, I feel like that's super motivational for a lot of people probably watching. We have a lot of young fans who are probably around the same age as you, Grant, maybe even a little younger, who I know I get messages both on Twitter. People talk to me at the track. How do I get into this sport? I can do this. I do this. I'm this. It's like there are so many different avenues, different pathways to get into this sport, just to get your foot in the door. So that's awesome because I met you a couple of years ago at Daytona briefly when you probably were still that high school kid, just, building out those models, studying the data. And so it's incredible to see in a fairly short amount of time how you've been able to turn that into a kind of an in with the industry. Like that's really, really cool, dude. So it's great to have you on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. And all I'll say to everybody out there who's trying to get into racing, connections. Be good with people, and that's how you'll get there.
And yeah. I just want to point this out because we know he is so good at those models and the analytics and stuff. I mean, I've got my picks wrote down right here for later in the show. I think we're cooked, boys.
It's a race for second this week. Well,
Uh,
before we get to what's coming up this week, I think we need to go over what happened this week. Nothing really happened, right?
Gosh, it's been such a busy week that I've almost forgotten that we had maybe the greatest race in NASCAR Cup Series history 4 nights ago.
Well, lead us
That's-
off. You were there.
Yeah, I was there. It was my first time ever at Kansas Speedway. I get the hype. It's built up really nicely around the track. The facility's great, and the reason I was there is because the racing on track has been fantastic the past couple of years, and yeah, it lived up to the hype. Just the opening stage alone, like satisfied the itch that I was trying to scratch this weekend. Chastain and Larson going back to back and forth, trying to take the lead. Hamlin swooping in, great racing all throughout the field. You had Byron and others coming from the rear. Just a fantastic track. Kansas has multiple grooves, multiple lanes, and that's what this next gen car needs to make action happen. You need to be able to get out from behind other cars. And gosh, this track has that magic formula going right now that produces bangers after bangers after bangers. So it was incredible. And of course, wrapped up with the closest finish in NASCAR Cup Series history. I know they're officially scoring it as 0.001 seconds, but I think they're doing that just because if they put 0.000, there'd be questions like, wait, so it was a tie? And they're like, no, we got to slide a one in there somewhere. It was probably closer than 0.001, but I'm not the data guy here, so I can't say for sure what the numbers probably looked like.
Danny, what'd you think?
And it's just the whole race was good. I mean, in a way, I hated that last caution come out because I was looking forward to seeing that battle. I think it was Truex was coming up on Larson. I was hoping we could get to see the way that played out because it looked like Truex had a lot of momentum coming his way. But if caution hadn't come out, then we wouldn't have had the closest finish in NASCAR history, which is it's just so weird. Like I remember making a note to Claudia earlier on a restart where they went like 5 wide. Busher made it go 5 wide on the restart, and that was just like for second place. And I told her, I was like, wouldn't it be funny if that was for the finish of the race? Well, I know, but it was interesting because I don't think anyone would have guessed we were about to see that finish because, like, you think back to Darlington. We're all ended up on Darlington this weekend. Darlington '03. It just felt like you just saw that kind of finish coming in that one because they were just side by side making runs on each other the whole time. You almost saw that kind of finish coming. This is just all of a sudden, oh, there goes Larson. Oh, wait, Bush is coming back. Oh, wait, they're going to be close. You didn't know who won.
What'd you think, Grant?
Well, I was there in person. It was the coolest freaking thing I've ever seen. I love Kansas. I've been saying for about 5 years now that it's the most underrated track in NASCAR. And I've been saying for about 3 years that it's the best track in NASCAR. And I think that everybody's finally going to jump on the bandwagon. So come with me. Here's the data for you. Kansas Speedway, first 80 laps, we had 188 real green flag passes. Those are passes completed at the line, and those are passes removing all green flag pit cycles. 188 passes. 40 more passes, and we would have topped all 500 laps at Martinsville. Those first 80 laps at Kansas were amazing.
Wow.
The race as a whole was up close to 400, I think. Give me half a second here.
I mean, yeah, that's like more than 10 per car. Like, you know,
I think it was around 480. So incredible race. Loved it.
See, I've been going to Kansas since 19. I think I said 18 the other night. 19 is the actual number. And I've been saying, other than that 2020 race, every Kansas race, 550 package or the next gen, whatever it is, it's been a banger. It's been really good before that. I've been standing for Kansas. I think I've annoyed these two hosts here with how much I say, like, Kansas is awesome as a facility. It's awesome as a track. Everyone likes it. Like, there's nothing bad about Kansas Speedway. And I am on the same train as you. I am so happy that it seems like everyone finally is on the same train. And the other thing I'm happy about, selfishly having gone there my entire life, basically, is everyone wants Chicagoland back now because of the 1.5 miles. And I am all for that as well. Chicagoland actually has trended twice this week on Twitter.
I did see that. Though I was going to say, Jarrett, not everyone. You saw Dave Moody's tweet.
We always have to have contrarians. And I will concede this. He was right. The attendance was dreadful. I said that in 2018 and 19 as well. But let's not pretend that it wasn't also down in in general back then.
Hey, Kansas with 2 races a year. I hope they pack the stands in the fall race because it's been hit or miss even in the last few years. So
it was actually because I got my tickets this week before the race because my dad and I always go, and the section I usually go to with them, like there were 3 seats left in
oh wow,
the top like 12, 13 rows where we usually sit in that section.
Now you got me curious. I'm gonna look at just see how many gaps there are in the whole thing.
There's probably some. I mean, there's probably still some. It's a while out, but
yeah, there's gonna be some. But I just want to see. Maybe it's not as many as you think.
I didn't even pay attention. How was the crowd this weekend? I didn't really pay attention to that part of it.
Being there in person, I was massively impressed for a 3.5-hour rain delay.
Yeah, for a rain delay, it wasn't bad.
Solid.
It was more than we're at the race that Kurt Busch won there. Like, I'll say that. There were more than that. Because I remember last year thinking, like, okay, like, the racing's good, but will the crowd show up? And they did. And I was surprised how many stuck it out this time, especially with it being on a Sunday night and not, like, you know, having that buffer room of a day off or a summer day or anything. So major props to them. I'm with you. I am so happy that Kansas is getting that recognition at this point. And
given that it was sold out day one, I'd be surprised if we don't sell it out in the fall.
I would too. I mean, it's been getting more and more packed progressively. Like, you just take out, like, 2020 be the leap year here. Each year it's been more and more and more. Because, like, I remember being there in 2019. It was like, it's kind of like actually this year's spring race. It was really sparse and it's just gotten better. But I think, like we talked about, what's going to help that, and let's talk a little more in depth here, is that finish. Danny, I was on the same page as you on this, where the caution came out and I was so worried. I'm like, no, we were having this great natural finish. Luckily, I will say, it wasn't a BS caution. I know there was, like, tinfoil hat people being like, Kyle Busch was going to run out, so he spun himself out. No, those tires were shredded. I saw the tires that came off Larson's car and they were cording.
Yeah. Kyle Busch doesn't just lose it. Something has to be wrong with the car.
Yeah, and
Kyle Busch does lose it quite a bit these days, but
well, okay. Yeah.
But the finish itself, I don't understand people that are hating it. I don't get it. Like, okay, like if you hate green white checkers, I guess whatever, but
people just hate fun, Jarrett.
The only criticism I've seen from people that has any validity to it, in my opinion, I understand all opinions are valid, not in this case, but this one maybe is. I argue it was a clean finish. Both guys going for it. I saw nothing wrong with Buescher or Larson, but some people are like, oh, Larson had to door Buescher hard. And I'm like, he did, but like.
But they'll like the Craven Busch finish in 03.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, that to me, that was fair. Because we even heard, was it after the Sieg Mayer photo finish? I don't remember who it was. One of the commentators made a point that, like, if you bang doors, you're going to slow yourself down as much as anything. So Larson hitting Buescher, I don't know if that helped him. Certainly didn't help Buescher necessarily, but I don't know that it helped Larson. Ultimately, the difference was a centimeter. So it's not like,
No, it was the painted line. The line was painted wrong. It has nothing to do with the scoring loop.
If Larson turns left and they crash, okay, that's a bad look. But just flat banging doors and they were tied effectively across the line, that's just good racing. To me, that I can't be mad at Larson for that. Not at all.
Well, and with it too is, like, all these criticism I see, they're nitpicks. They're small little nitpicks, and it's reaching, and you can tell it's people desperate. Like, there's other races where we've had really good things happen or great finishes or whatnot, and people are like, we'll bring up actual valid criticism about something in the race. I have not seen something, in my opinion, that I can look at and say, yeah, there is no bias behind what they're saying. I completely get it, even if I disagree. I just, call me all the names you want, but I just don't see it here. Whether you talk about the race in its entirety, the intermediate program right now is insane. It's the complete 180 of 5 years ago, when we're like, more short tracks, more road courses, and now it's, maybe we can hold off for a little bit, and like maybe a mile and a half or two, maybe get rid of the Roval, and we'll put Charlotte's oval date back in the fall.
Please give me 2 Charlotte ovals.
That's the thing. I like, just to jump in for a second, I don't want to overreact the way we did with the next gen and put 6 road courses on the schedule. I don't want to, like, snap too far the other direction all at once. But yes, I don't think there's any reason the Roval should still be on the schedule. That should be an oval 500-mile race, 400-mile race, maybe even in the fall instead. And I'm with you. In the next year or two, perhaps Chicagoland should get another chance on the schedule. But, I don't want to, people talk about Kentucky. No, Kentucky, I think, can stay away, at least for now. At least for now. Even as much as I love Texas, one date is fine at Texas. I don't want to overreact the way we did with short tracks and road courses.
I have something to say about Kentucky. The only way I want Kentucky to get its date back is if Nashville Super Speedway becomes Nashville Fairground Speedway. And then that would be a perfect reason to bring Kentucky in and be another SMI, intermediate track. Unless they make both tracks work, they could do that.
I will say
fair enough.
I will say this. I keep having to say it because a lot of people don't know. Like I saw Dale Jr. talking about the Chicagoland side of it and the Roval Oval side of it and stuff like that. Chicagoland is running. They had a race last September. So 20,000 or so people were in there.
Wasn't there a Supercross event not that long ago?
Playoff Supercross event with about 20 to 22,000 people, give or take, in there. So I don't even want to say that it's like a Chicagoland stand here. I just want to say it firmly, like the truth here is like the track, probably needs a little TLC in the year leading up to the race, just because you don't have a full crowd there fixing it up. You don't have a full staff that entire time, but the track is in good condition. I mean, Eric, we went by there.
It was, it's in good condition. I'm just laughing, Jarrett. You've turned into like Kevin Harvick in the Fox booth. Tender love and care, throwing that slang around there. You said stand twice since we started this show.
The only difference here is, one, I wasn't put up to it and by anybody, and two, I am probably half his age.
Yeah, so it's more genuine, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm just genuinely sound.
You said TLC. I thought the Learning Channel. Does that make me old?
I think WWE tables, ladders, and chairs match.
Yeah. Oh, we're off the rails already.
That says so much about the three of us.
But yeah, I mean, I put a poll in the chat here. Which one? I mean, we kind of had, you guys kind of said which ones, but I put a poll, if my tab will open up here, asking should we put more mile and a halves on the schedule. 81% of the voters say yes, that we should. To me, I think the first one should be the Charlotte fall date.
Yeah, that's the easiest one. That just seems like, I mean, we could change it today. Like they honestly, they don't have to, they're not married to what they wrote on the schedule, are they? Like they could,
if they could just announce today, like, hey, we're going to run the oval instead of this fall.
Maybe they've already sold camping spots in certain places, so maybe we are kind of screwed. I don't know.
But it would be in the infield.
An oval.
I guess that's true. Yeah, if there's, that's a good point.
You just camp on the track for all I care.
So like that one too. Like I'd ask anyone on this panel in the chat. I'm like, what would you rather see, the Roval with this car or the Charlotte Oval? They could put it as a 400 miler if they want to keep it at that distance. I know fans would.
We would have an even 1,000 miles at Charlotte each year.
Fair enough. Pretty good.
You can advertise that.
But I think that would work because on top of that, like with Chicagoland, I saw people like Harvick. I think it was Harvick, or was it Denny? One of them. So many drivers with podcasts now, I mix them up. But I think one of them had said something like, "Oh, we can do the Chicago Street Course in Chicagoland in the same year on the same schedule." I'm like, no. As somebody who lived in Northern Illinois, like the base and the culture just is not there yet. Like it never was. But so it's like, I could see when they leave the Chicago Street Course, you don't leave that market, go to Chicagoland. Kentucky, I'm at least willing to, like, if you wanted to give me a prove it deal year, like prove it, like we're all in theory, this car should race well here, like at the Brickyard with the oval. Everyone's like, in theory, it should race well. Look at Pocono. I would be okay if, like, I don't know, they get rid of one date from somewhere they don't need necessarily, wherever SMI would choose that to be, and you give me one tryout to be like, okay, is it as good as you're going to say? And not just like a good finish like the last two there. Like, is it going to be a good race? I'd be willing to see that. I would not be willing to sign on for 3 to 5 years of Kentucky, though.
I saw someone say this in the chat, and I kind of agree with them. If for some reason they need to take a lot of time to do renovations to Texas, whatever that might be, I'd be okay if Kentucky served as a Texas replacement for one season.
That could time out. Yeah.
I mean, and especially if they change Texas to like a Charlotte just configuration, just go full cookie cutter. Oh, please do it. Please. Because I think even with new pavement, I think that they could make it more than just a one groove racetrack.
Due to Texas, what they've done at Kansas.
It's so close for Kentucky. I know they don't have staff there anymore, but it's close enough that the staff at Nashville Super Speedway could even run things at Kentucky for 1 year if they needed to use it.
Now, this discussion, I kind of want to lead this into our next topic, and this is where I think a lot of people saw the social media response jump the shark here. Another little old reference here I can plug in. Jump the shark. Some people are arguing that this is one of, if not the greatest NASCAR race ever. Grant, I want you to lead us off. Yes or no, and what's your case for it?
I give it a yes. Because this race, for me, this race at least clears as the best next gen race. And I'll take a next gen speedway, a next gen intermediate track race over any Gen 6 race. And I'm 20 years old, so I didn't start watching until the Gen 6 era. So I am not going to speak on races that I'm not super familiar with because I've only watched maybe one race in each season back until, I don't know, 03-ish. So that's just not enough data for me to look at and compare before Gen 6. So for me, I think it's the best Gen 7 race. And so for me, it's my favorite race of all time. I have some data to go with it too, which is, for me, I think that part of what makes a good race is when we have variance in cars' ability to pass, because people talk about how we need the next gen to be easier to pass. You're swatting flies at the wrong item here. Aero blocking is good. We need some sort of defense ability, because when passing is too easy, the faster car slides by and the battle's done in 3 seconds. We need to have variance in ability to pass. The guy who passed the best at Kansas was William Byron. He had a pass efficiency of 47%. That means that when he got into passing range of another car, there was a 47% chance he was getting by. The guy who had the lowest pass efficiency, I'll throw out the bottom guy because technically he doesn't really count, but the lowest guy would have been Michael McDowell at 3%. He had a 3% chance of passing a car when he caught one. So I think variance in passing helps a lot too, and that's the biggest split we've seen all year.
That is a huge split. I know Byron probably ate up a lot of that in the first stage, because McDowell made all his passes on a strategy and track position. That's how he squeaked out a top 10. That's what's so interesting about that, those numbers there. I don't, kind of like Grant, I can't speak as confidently. See, I can go back at least to about 2004, and I've watched the vast majority of races since 2004. This, as far as the actual on-track racing product, is probably number one. I'm not even kidding. It probably is. As far as pump and circumstance, there are some of those mid 2000s, like Dale Jr. winning at Daytona in 2001, Daytona 500, 2004. I can think of some of those races. Shoot, I would even say some of the Gen 6 Daytona and Talladega races, Chicagoland in 2018 had that great finish. I'll be honest, part of what drags Kansas back a little bit in this case is because it was a rain delay, because the stands were 70% full at best. It didn't have quite the same vibe as some of these other races that I've come away just being like, that was so good for the sport. That was such an amazing, I would argue Atlanta just 8 or 9 weeks ago, because of the packed grandstands, I'd argue that was a better TV viewing experience, not necessarily a better on-track racing product. So that's where it's like there's a difference to me. It's super ambiguous.
I'm gonna say straight up, I think green flag to checkered flag, I think it was better than Atlanta. I know a lot, and I'm not saying because Atlanta was a super speedway. I just think the racing was plainly better.
I would agree.
Week. I cannot say that I think it's the greatest ever. Call me an old head, call me what you will. The first time I watched the 1992 Hooters 500, I had never watched more than just a few clips of it, and I watched it flag to flag. It was insane. It was very similar to this Kansas race, actually, because of the passing. And because of the ability of some to be good early in runs and others to be good late in runs and tire strategy, of course, the circumstance, I think, also puts that over when you have 6 guys battling for a championship, 3 of which realistically could have taken it at any given lap, and the difference of the championship was 1 lap led in the entire final race. Like, I think, that puts it above and beyond. But I can easily argue, because I do think the recency bias, I think, takes over a little bit with a lot of people. But I can definitely argue this is top 5 or top 10 ever that I've ever seen. And I've watched back on full seasons all the way back into the 90s. I watched every race live since the 2005 Daytona 500. I can argue that. At least in the last, since 92 would be what? 32 years? Am I counting that right? 32 years.
Something like that.
I will say I think it's in the top 5 in the last 32 years. And that's only because I've watched all of those beginning to end since then, and a few different races from the 80s and 70s.
Yeah, to kind of summarize my point earlier, I think on-track product, green to checkered, this was maybe the best race I've ever seen. But the problem is it was a mid-May Kansas Speedway race that was delayed 4 hours and was on FS1 with 70% of its stands full. So I'm saying that there have been just better or bigger events and spectacles that I think, might hold a little more weight when you're talking about greatest race ever, I guess.
That's fine. We'll pack the playoff race and make it the best race of all time. And we'll have 1 and 2. So
there we go. Hey,
Watch that one's going to be dominated by someone winning by like 15 seconds somehow.
Yeah, Ford finally figures it out.
Second will be wild.
Riley Herbst in the 3rd front row car before they merge, which we'll talk about later. But Danny, I want to know your thoughts on this. Like, I really want to know your thoughts on this.
Man, I mean, this race was just all around just a really fun one to watch, because you saw battles all day, and then just ultimately, that finish. Can we talk about the fact that I'm going to show an example here? This is a tackle box that's, about yay wide. That's approximately the combined gap that Ford has lost 3 races this year.
That might be too large, actually. I think that's too big.
That might be too large for the combined gap of Buescher, Sieg, and Blaney losing this year.
It was great, though, to see Buescher be competitive. This is 3 straight second-place finishes for an RFK car, and also a couple other Fords. Noah Gragson, I mentioned McDowell earlier, played the strategy right. They also scored top 10s. So all things considered, Ford, slight bounce back this weekend. So that is encouraging, albeit the loss was still brutal.
There for a little while towards the end, seeing Buescher up there, I was like, it was starting to feel to me like, so he won Richmond last year, but then he won like the very next week. What was that? Michigan. He won that one, and I was thinking like for a little bit, I was thinking this feels like a race Buescher can win, and ultimately come close in the end. But and he had to fall back and in the race after he looked very fast early on, and he had to go to the back and work his way back up. So that was even more impressive to see he worked his way up and practically almost won a race.
I've got some positive Ford thoughts for you here. The first thing is Chris Buescher had the 2nd fastest car in the entirety of the race. So I think that's awfully promising. You move over to his teammate, Brad Keselowski. They were flat flying in the fourth quarter. They saved their tires really well and put up the 3rd fastest car in the 4th quarter of the race. I think that there's a slight uptick for Ford from this weekend. RFK is currently the leader of the whole group. Blaney has been carrying Penske. He put up the 2nd best pass efficiency of the day at 40%. So those are 3 Fords I like a lot. From practice and qualifying, I had a little higher hopes for Gregson's outward metrics. Obviously, he had a good day. He passed the eye test, but the stats test maybe not so much.
Yeah, well, the rest of Stewart-Haas plummeted at the start of the race. I was like, oh God, but Gregson held strong in the top 10 more or less. So I was especially impressed with Noah, like you said, sort of passing the eye test.
The 4, the 14, and the 41 were the 30th, 31st, and 32nd fastest cars in the entire race at Kansas Speedway. Gregson put up the 13th best car. which is impressive, giving the gap to his teammates. But that's pretty cool.
Brutal.
Be curious to hear from you on this one. What can you say about Ross Chastain? Because he looked so fast at the beginning, but ultimately he come in with only a 19th place finish. I mean, so did Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace both disappointed me, 17th and 20th. But Ross was, legitimately fast at the start, and it just fell off. Did you notice anything?
Yes, sir. So here's my thing on Ross. Don't tell my boss. I love Ross Chastain. His truck from Kansas is hiding up here. And here's why. Ross Chastain makes stuff interesting because he is the aero blocking king, and he's amazing. So here's what we need to know. This year, Kyle Larson has the best defense rating. So that's the inverse of pass efficiency, meaning that when you're leading and a car gets in your passing range, I start scoring how long it takes for that car to get by you. So when a car gets in passing range, Kyle Larson has, on an intermediate track, an 8% chance of losing that position.
Wow.
Ross Chastain is right behind him at a 9%. That's insane. Like the field average is like 25 or 30%. That means it takes over 10 laps to pass either of those guys. That's nuts. That's why that battle lasted so long, is because they're so good at defense. So on the whole of the day, Ross Chastain put up a 17% defense rating, which is really good. But quite honestly, he was carrying a car that had no business being there. He ended up putting up the 17th fastest car of the day. He turned the second best lap of the race. Really good short run car. I think they just didn't quite have the tire fall off to compete. And Ross was able to hang on. He could get the track position early and then just maintain it.
I love how even statistics show Ross Chastain in many ways can be an anomaly as a driver and just be that wild card in every way. And I'm on the Ross train too. He just makes it fun. Every part of it he makes fun.
Those numbers are crazy when you consider like Larson, Chastain being so close in pass defense efficiency. I'm sorry, I forget what the exact metric is called. Defense rating is even more remarkable when you consider Larson is arguably the fastest car every week, and Chastain, like you're saying, is lucky to be a top 10 fastest car. Like that just shows you it's in the driver's hands, and Ross is incredible at what he does at that part of his job. I think the problem on Sunday is he lost clean air on that one, or he had that one restart where he fell to like 6th or something. And I think that was the end of his night. I just think that again shows the limitations of his car compared to Hendrick, for example. But
now real quick, just wanted to follow up on the poll I put out. 87% in the chat said that this was the best next gen race. I did see some others talking about Atlanta and also Bristol. Now, again, we talked about a few different people that finished up front and some that lagged behind. Anyone else that you guys noticed before we move on and kind of talk about some other maybe not as fun news from this race?
Christopher Bell needed a good week, finished 6th. You mentioned Tyler Reddick a second ago, Danny. Both he and Bubba Wallace were kind of no-shows. That was kind of disappointing. I know Reddick got into the wall a couple times. Bubba was caught up in that one crash, was still up inside the top 10, I think, towards the end. I don't know what happened to him. I forget if it was a bad pit stop or he had to pit for fuel. I don't remember what happened towards the end, but they ended up with a 17th and 20th place finish, which, considering their track record, was very disappointing. And Corey Heim, 22nd in his second Cup start. Same cannot be said about Jimmy, unfortunately. Grant Jimmy another rough weekend out of the track.
Listen. I won't take any Jimmy slander here. We will not deal with that.
Well, I'm not going to slander Jimmy, but I will give some praise to the driver of his old car, the 48, Alex Bowman.
I was going to too.
He started 18th. He worked his way through the field all day, and there was a period where some pitting situations, caution, put him back more about 20th, but ultimately he managed to come out with a 7th place finish. So good for the 48 team on that.
He's still tied with Truex, Reddick, and Byron for most top 10s this year at 7. Like, he's quietly just been the most consistent guy out there. He doesn't lead laps and he's not flashy about it. Whereas the other guys
NASCAR playoff standings has him 11th right now.
Here's my problem with Alex Bowman. Alex
Uh-oh.
Bowman is the 12th fastest car in the field on average on non-drafting ovals, and his teammates are second, seventh, or second, sixth, and seventh, and he's 12th. I don't mean to be that guy, but one is not like the rest.
Yeah, he's ninth in the regular season standings. I think that does drop him to 11th when you factor in Bell and
He gets the
Suarez with
finishes, he
wins.
just doesn't have the speed. I don't
Well,
understand how it happens, but he does.
yeah, that's a great point. And the same thing with Byron. Another weekend. I know he started last because he made a mistake in qualifying, but Byron, another week with 0 stage points earned. Like Larson has nearly triple the stage points Byron has at this point in the year. Like we look at Byron's 3 wins, and that's impressive, very flashy, really great. But he's 7th in the regular season standings. He lost a spot to Blaney this weekend, I believe. Like
Yeah.
still good, but like I don't like when we talked a few weeks ago, guys, about like the top 4, like who's our championship 4. We're all like, oh yeah, Larson, Byron, Hamlin, and then we kind of differed on that 4th slot. I think Byron's in that 4th slot right now. Like I think you can. I think solidly Truex is 3rd. You guys were down on him a few weeks ago. I think Truex is solidly 3rd. He wins that race if Kyle Busch doesn't lose it with 5 to go.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't put Byron like you said, the 3 wins look good on paper, but for obvious reasons, I can't put him above Larson and Hamlin right now.
Grant, I want to know. I want to know your thoughts on that because I saw your face there, and I'm interested on your thinking on this.
Does the data say I'm wrong? Be honest.
Well, repeat to me what your take actually is.
So I just think right now, and keep in mind, I'm factoring in how many playoff points you've earned and whatnot. But if I were to pick my championship 4, or just right now, who are the 4 fastest cars regularly week to week? It's Larson, Hamlin, Truex, Byron, probably in that order.
Just the 4 fastest cars, I can tell you that.
All right, let me know. How close am
4
I?
fastest cars on non-drafting ovals in order. Denny Hamlin, the
I had him second.
I don't know, a good gap. And then Larson and Truex, and then a massive gap.
Oh.
And that massive gap drops into a contingent of guys within an average of 1 point. That would be the 45, the 54, the 24, and the 9 and the 12 are thinking about being there.
So that proves my point that it's Larson, Hamlin, Truex, and then Byron's like that, maybe that 4th guy right now.
Here's my
Get your order right. I said the best driver in NASCAR is Denny Hamlin right now.
That's a discussable item. But here's my thoughts on the 4 guys situation. You got to have Larson and Hamlin. The rest of the field is honestly just not even on their level. There's so many reasons for that. I actually have high praise for Truex right now. I've harped on Truex a lot in the past 2 years because he is just not. He hasn't produced the same speed as the JGR guys, and more importantly, when he does, he wouldn't execute. And the biggest reason for that is restarts. That's a big part of auto racing analytics. I talk a lot about restarts, because the next gen car, the restarts are so important because the field is closer than it's ever been, and that's when you can get spots. Truex has been shooting himself in the foot, restart after restart for years and years and years.
I can believe it.
But right now, as we stand at the start of May, Martin Truex Jr. has gained more positions on restarts than anyone in the field and has the second best position retention rate. That is remarkable. Like, this man has turned it around. And
talk about character development. There you go.
I have suddenly started to have faith in Martin Truex Jr. I almost started a YouTube channel a year ago for one purpose: to make a video about how Truex completely blew the 2022 season. Because he had the fastest car more than anyone else the whole season. He had the fastest car over double the time of everybody else, and he didn't win. He didn't win a single race. But now it looks like he could potentially do that. We'll see.
So
we'll see.
Before we move on to the ratings and everything else, especially the poll, that was an interesting one. I do want to ask one more question. I don't know if you have like the overall season data for this. We've talked about the favorites. Who is somebody that everyone's sleeping on, or at least you could see being someone everyone's sleeping on based on the data? Because I feel like we talk about the same 4 or 5 or 6 guys, and that those were the ones listed. Is there anybody who's quietly putting together a performance that, nobody is really given recognition to?
Can I guess that, like, I don't know, that like Kyle Busch, when they're not making mistakes on pit road or spinning out with 5 laps to go, I would imagine Kyle Busch, and maybe I'm just or not biased, maybe it's recency bias. The last few weeks he's been better and finished top 10 more consistently.
I mean, he was up front in the top 5 at Las Vegas. I remember because I picked him, and then that penalty happened or issue or whatever,
I just know we started the year really high on Kyle Busch, and then kind of collectively we were like, oh, nope, they keep sucking. What's up? And now he's been better again lately. I'm like, maybe he was always kind of fast, and now the execution is just better. Would be my guess, but I don't know. That's fascinating, though. I love this. I feel like we could talk like how eye test and data, how they match or do not correlate. That's great. Do we need to get to the
a lot?
Yeah. Do we need to get to the poll, Jarrett? Do we have is that what's next?
Yeah, ratings in the poll. So I can get us into the TV ratings here. Keep in mind it was a over 3-hour rain delay. But basically 2.3 million people watched this race. It was down in total 2% from last year and 1% from 2022. 400 about I'd say 500,000 in the key demo, which was 21%, a little over. I looked on Sports Media Watch. Because that's where I compare it, because NASCAR does not add in any extra streaming numbers. YouTube TV is counted with normal Nielsen ratings here. F1 counts their numbers with F1 TV. The closest comparisons what Sports Media Watch has, which was the F1 did beat NASCAR on ABC with 2.899 million viewers. Again, keep in mind, this is against a rain delay cable NASCAR race on a track that's not historically popular when it comes to NASCAR fans. I think it has time to turn it around, and it should.
And the Lando Norris win. Like that race was in doubt from almost the get-go. I'll give F1 credit. This was their biggest American weekend viewership-wise, and it's just everything stacked perfectly in their favor, and they took advantage of it. It was a watchable F1 race, I thought.
And I'll say this. There's all those factors in line, but F1 had the perfect storm. If you looked at the people who were at that race, it was a lot of people, celebrity-wise, politically-wise, that would bring people in to watch. F1 capitalized on it. I mean, there's a lot of copium going on right now about X, Y, or Z, but F1 capitalized on a perfect storm. They didn't blow it. They didn't do anything stupid, and they deserve props. I mean, there's no other way to put it. As a NASCAR fan, do I like to see it? No, I don't. I want NASCAR to be king because I think it's overall just a better racing series, basically better everything outside of broadcast and advertising. But yeah, I don't even want to talk about the broadcast. We can say all the stuff we want to. We've said it before.
Go to the race. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, go to the race.
Those MRN guys are awesome. They're so good.
They are. But yeah, props to F1 for doing well this week, and hopefully a rising tide lifts all ships mentality comes with it. Saturday night, the truck race got 631,000 watching on what is generally, especially against what it was on cable, an unfavorable head-to-head, basically. I don't like making excuses, but for a truck race, again, that's not anywhere special, having over 600,000 viewers is still a really, really good deal. And that's not like copium in any means. That's just straight up, that's what it's shown over the years. Now, as for the poll, on the other hand, that we ran was a little bit different. It was a little more positive when it came to what everyone thought. Now, I just saw my community tab. It went 17,000 votes for this poll this week and I asked, what did you think of the 2024 Advent Health 400? 83%, which is a near record, said it was a great race. 12% said good. So 95% of the 17,000 voters, which Danny, you like to always have the breakdown of how many people voted positively for it. So get that for me real quick. But 95% of 17,000 voters said it was a good to great race.
That means 16,150 people said this was gave it a positive rating.
And 3% said average, and 1% apiece said below average and bad. For a poll record, 2% net negative. It is the lowest net negative we have ever had since the 2019 Bristol night race. which is
That's
where
incredible.
That kind of puts our poll pretty even with Jeff Gluck's poll, from what I understand. By the way, that negativity means that 340 people didn't like this.
More importantly, how many people thought this was an average race?
That's what I was thinking.
That's
3%
insane.
average.
Wow, look at that finish. I see that every week, average.
Like I could see if you're a Busher hater or not Busher, I'm sorry, Busher fan and you hate that finish, negative.
That's what
But
I was
like-
thinking. I'm like,
but
if your
average-
driver didn't do well, like if you're a Jimmy Johnson fan, you're only watching for that. I get it. I get it. That was not an average race in any way.
510 people. 510 people looked at this and said, "Yes, this is NASCAR. This is average."
Just shrug their shoulders. Like what the what? How?
If you want some perspective on how our poll is, I believe it was almost 10% said the Bristol race was a negative race. Like
Yeah,
it's just,
but
that's just how
that was
social
another one though.
media
I
is.
think that was another race where I was shocked by how many people said average. I'm like, that Bristol race a few weeks ago, you have to have a strong opinion one way or another. You either loved it because it was different or you hated it because it was different. It's like there's no in between. How is there an in between with this one too? It just doesn't add up. Have an opinion, people.
People
Come on.
hate fun.
I would say that maybe they're like napping during the race, and that's why they don't know what happened. But when you have a finish that good, still you can't vote average then. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. They only watched stage 2. I don't know. And then the rain delay pushed it past their bedtime. I don't know.
Stage 2 was still above average.
It was still good. Yeah, but it was
You're seeing like every week what we look
Well,
at in the chat.
Wait till Grant gets to the gutter comments
Oh,
here,
yeah.
Jared. Yeah.
So let's get to the comments here. The first
Oh,
comment was from
I
Isaac
remember
this week.
this.
It's from Isaac. He beat Spencer to the jump this week.
Wow.
So
Upset alert.
Was it? So I want you guys to let me know. Was it a positive, negative, or meme comment, or a mix of one of those, or two of those?
I think it was positive. I think he's loving life.
Just an insane jumble of words. He can't believe what he just saw.
That's not a bad guess.
What do you think, Grant?
There will be positivity all over this comment section.
All right. Well, here's what he said. He said, on this Empire Day of May 5th, the dark side of Mother Nature reared her ugly head again, only for it to give way to a race of exciting and competitive racing with honest-to-God fuel mileage well before Kyle Busch ran out of talent and gave us a green-white checker finish for the ages. Thanks, KFB.
What an interesting. That was very dramatic at the
Well,
beginning.
it was Revenge of the 5th. Because yeah, it's May the 4th was
Okay.
but as for, if it will let me get back in here, as for the rest of the comments here, Power of the Poof had the top rated comment saying the new margin of defeat for Ford in 2024, 1/1000th of a second. Yeah, it was pretty brutal. Let's see. Paladin says, I have no words. Kansas delivered yet again.
What it does.
Blue Jimmy 48 fan said, I legitimately went through the 5 stages of grief when Jimmy got wrecked to screaming my lungs out in excitement at that finish. Unreal. What an effing race.
Dang.
So even the Jimmy fans liked it.
There you go. He didn't vote average, probably. Maybe he did. Bounced. I don't know.
This is good.
Blue Jimmy, let us know in the chat. Did you vote average? Are you one of those 510 people we're criticizing? Because if so, I'm sorry. But please let me know. I won't hold it against you.
Okay, so I have 2 here that one of them I bookmarked and one of them I hearted because I knew I had to read it on the podcast. So this one has...
He voted great. Sorry. He said he voted
As
great.
he should. Good answer.
CPO said Ford equals frequently occurring razor-thin defeats.
Wow.
And then this one I had to heart because it was really good. The Cloud Creation said, my pregnant wife burst into tears when she saw Truex take 4 tires. So now I'm on an ice cream run to make her feel better. But hey, I'm a 5 fan, so I'll get an extra scoop for myself to celebrate.
What a comment. That's funny.
To which I said, best of luck,
Lord.
bud, and congratulations.
That's hilarious.
Let's see.
Quick aside, that 2022 Truex video that I almost made that I never did, that was a whole segment, was interesting strategy calls.
That's the thing, is like that's their Achilles heel, it feels like. Is like they throw races away with obvious calls that shouldn't be made.
I didn't hate the 4-tire call. I didn't hate the 4-tire call. He basically finished 3rd. I mean, if he comes out 1 row up further than he did, maybe he's side by side for the win. You never know. I didn't hate the call. hindsight's
I mean,
2020.
they probably didn't think that they trusted their short run restart speed how it was, so go for it.
Grant's got the numbers.
Here's my thoughts, guys. You got to know your driver. Is your driver going to make a big gain, or is your driver better at holding his ground? And Martin Truex Jr. currently has the second best restart position retention rate, meaning that this season he has maintained the position that he starts in or gained almost 85% of restarts. To me, that's not a hard call. Like
but he's got to pass Hamlin. He'd be restarting second probably, so you still have to pass a guy. I don't know. I guess. Yeah, that's a good point.
Passing one guy better than 7.
It's a good point. That's fair. Fair enough.
NRG Mobile here said, can't believe Jimmy got ran over by the guy who hand-delivered a letter to his former team owner on replacing Johnson at the season's end of 2020, knowing damn well Rick Hendrick tore that shit in half and looking at Corey's stats.
That's what a
brutal, and
wow.
I love it. It's funny as hell.
Damn.
There was a whole thread on Twitter.
There's no topping that comment. That's probably the funniest comment of the night. Let's see. Let's keep going down. This one's interesting. Fox Rocks, and Ty Dillon.
Okay.
We're not in the gutter? That feels like a gutter comment.
No, it has 6 upvotes.
What?
Or likes.
That's bait. That's bait.
And I took it. Hook, line, and sinker. Do we want to go to the gutter? Because I feel like they're either going to be somebody positive about Denny Hamlin or...
Go to the gutter, because I saw someone say earlier in the chat that they saw the gutter comments, and they're very gutter tonight.
I want to see them.
They are different for each person. I did not vet these yet, and we have over 550 comments. It's the only time I want 550 in Kansas to be associated with each other. I can read that one.
We just need to read them so we can get your honest. I want to see you catch yourself mid-sentence.
No, I'm going to read the last one, but that was one I'd make sure.
Okay.
All right. So Palm Tree here said, downvote this comment so the gutter section has no room for negativity for such an amazing race.
People actually did. I love that.
You got one of the 3. Good job. G. Jellerby says, just because it ended in a photo finish doesn't make it great. The race overall sucked and was boring. To which the one comment underneath it is a clown emoji.
Were they watching the F1 race instead?
The F1 race ended before. We all watched it during the rain delay.
Yeah.
And then
if you don't like that, don't even watch.
The gutteristy of the gutter comments is from Too Tough Too Tame, who's a channel member. So I'm apologies for us putting you on blast here.
Damn.
What an awful race. Denny Hamlin leading makes a race gross. Then we get a racist winning. Disgusting. And then we get F1, who gets a first-time winner, and Donald Trump at the race. Now that's an event. NASCAR needs to take notes. F1 is so much better right now.
I feel like this is just
that's
bait.
bait.
That's got to be a troll.
That went a couple different directions I was not expecting.
I can read a couple more if I can find some good ones here. Ghosty said 2 mid races in a day and 2 gifted winners.
Gifted isn't talented.
This one's good. Yes, the finish was amazing, but the race still sucks, and I miss the Gen 6 car.
Well, at least that's an opinion. I don't have to agree, but that's not like.
Thanks for your opinion, even though it's wrong.
Crazy opinion.
It's definitely a little crazy. I'll give it. Yeah.
Everyone know. Oh my God! It's literally a bunch of comments about Kyle Larson in 2020. That's what most of them are. Is we all know the fans of Kyle Larson. We need to get him out of here. It's like,
did y'all see the segment on the Pat McAfee show this week that people were tweeting and sharing around?
No,
I don't want to quote it, but it was a little awkward. It was good for NASCAR to get that kind of exposure, but unless I was reading it wrong, they referenced 2020 Kyle Larson. I think they did. Not like super obviously, but like if you know, you know. I don't know. Maybe the chat. Maybe I misinterpreted what they were talking about. They made a comment like, Did you see how he slammed into that black car?
I
like,
saw
"Oh."
that. Yeah, okay.
I was like,
I was
oh,
like, I'm like
okay.
trying to think which comment was it, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I
that
was like, I don't
one.
know if
Maybe
they're.
maybe I didn't think too much when I watched that clip.
I was like, maybe I mean, I don't watch the Pat McAfee show very often, so maybe there's an inside joke I don't get. But I was like, I think that might be. Anyway, we can move on.
No, that again, the gutter is mostly just stuff like that. I could read some of them, but I kind of want this to stay monetized. Like,
Fair
just
enough.
saying.
Fair enough. Well, we could talk about the truck race briefly if we want.
Yeah.
It was also good.
It was. It's Kansas. It's got to be good. It was Heim time.
Yeah. Yeah. I finally got a pick right. Feels like it's been weeks.
Did that get you out of
Record on.
last this week? That's the question.
I haven't actually scrolled that far
Don't
down
scroll
in our
down yet.
itinerary.
We'll
I don't
see.
know. I hope I at least made up some ground on the top 2 or 3.
You
I feel
were
like there's no way I
27
didn't.
points back last week. So if
I
you
got to be like
scroll-
20. I got to be 20 back now, right? Because my cup win finished like 4th or 5th.
Danny, if you want to scroll down so you can give us the reaction.
Oh, there's no way I lost ground. My 30 back? There's no way.
I won't say anything. All I'll say is that
I'm scrolling.
My pick
Screw it.
right at the end was Chase Elliott, and he got a third right at the end.
Wait. So Eric, what's your prediction?
I gained 1 point. That's all. Damn it. All right, Corey Heim, I need more from you. At least I didn't lose ground. You had me thinking I lost ground somehow. I'm like, no way. No.
I feel like a
I
minimal
lost
gain
ground.
would make you more upset.
Well, I definitely it's just a truck pick. It is just a truck race, but it was a good truck race. I also wanted to shout out Caden Honeycutt. Nice Motorsports is not the same Nice Motorsports as 3 or 4 years ago. So to see that that truck with a part-time driver behind the wheel run top 5 legitimately, I don't even think he had a sponsor on the hood. I was sitting in the grandstands for some of it. I couldn't see clearly, but a white niche truck with a part-time driver that's not a cup driver behind the wheel, running top 5 was extremely impressive. I looked up Honeycutt's stats that night, and he's actually been very impressive the couple of other races he's done this year. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but I think he has at least 1 or 2 top 10 finishes this year in trucks. So
You have to remember what races those were.
I don't, but I'll pull it up because I do want to give him his true credit. But no, Heim was the star of the show. I would say Honeycutt was the next most impressive driver for sure.
And I want to give a shout out to Carson Hocevar in the booth. He was excellent. He was a natural. Like, I was thinking he's going to go in there and be like a meme commentator. And I tweeted out like I thought how good he was doing. And Brock Beard, our guest last week, had brought up a point. It's like, this just shows why we desperately need new blood in the booth, because those new perspectives and not doing the same thing we've done on a broadcast since 2001 is desperately needed. And Hocevar was amazing. Go for it.
2 words. Jamie McMurray.
Yep.
Where is he? Oh my gosh. The guy is so good. Like, it has been time for years.
I have Caden Honeycutt's results this year. They are more impressive than I realized. In 4 starts, he's got a 6th at Atlanta, a 12th at Bristol, a 9th at Martinsville, and a 4th at Kansas in Nice Motorsports equipment. Granted, he has Phil Gould working with him, who's won a lot of races in trucks. He's worked with some great drivers, but still, where Nice is at right now, to have a part-time driver finishing top 10 this regularly is extremely impressive. Like, that's Carson Hocevar 2023 numbers, and I don't think Nice is as good as they were with Hocevar last year. Maybe I'm wrong. That's how it seems.
What other races? Are those the only 3 races he's run? Vegas?
He's done those 4, 6th, 12th, 9th, and 4th.
What were they? You said Atlanta, Bristol,
Martinsville, Kansas. So it's a mix of styles.
Cool. Interesting. Very interesting. So if we throw out the other races for that 45 truck, Caden Honeycutt would currently have, what would it be? The 8th fastest truck in the truck series, despite the fact that the next Nice truck ranks 18th.
Yeah, because Nice, Bailey Curry has had some good runs, I feel like, with Nice.
Bailey Curry ranks 18th right now.
Except for when he had the roof fly off that one time was a little questionable.
Raise the roof.
Who do they got? Is Matt Mills full-time? I don't know if he's full-time.
Yeah, I think he's full-time in the 42.
Yeah. Is that it? Is that all they have? Is it just Matt Mills and Bailey Curry full-time?
I think it is.
They've had Johnny Sauter drive that 45 a couple of times, I think.
Was it Denny Hamlin or
Mills
Dale
is not
Jr. who shouted out Honeycutt and said like how good he is and get him in a good ride? I think it was Dale Jr. that said so, and like I didn't think anything of it, and then we started looking into it, and it's like damn. I mean, just saying, if a JRM ride opens up in their sponsorship, or if there's some open dates with that 88 when Carson Quapple isn't racing, the more and more we see of this young crop of drivers coming up right now, the more excited I get, because, you know, we've seen before where it's like year after year, you know, it's like Kyle Larson 1 year and then Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney. And it was a good stretch of rookies, don't get me wrong. And I think the rookies classes are way better than they were, especially in the end of the COT era. I mean, Stephen Light was a rookie of the year in 2012 and he's starting parked. But I'm just so excited because you're seeing so many Xfinity and truck guys that like either we think are kind of doing better than they should at the development level they're at, or are just plainly amazing talents coming through, and we all know how good they are. I mean, I feel like the next 5 to 10 years of Cup rookies, we could see somebody come up who nobody thinks is going to be good because they're overshadowed by how much better the rookies around them have been. And the other problem too is a lot of the Cup guys are still pretty young, so there's not going to be the seats for these guys, at least really good seats for them to go up into, like superpower seats.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think the leash will become shorter eventually for some of these 30-year-old drivers. I'll throw out like a name like a Corey LaJoy. At some point, his leash could become pretty short. Honestly, even who else is like around 30? I mean, Alex Bowman, Ally loves him. I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. You know, some of these other young guys, there's going to be pressure put on them. I want to give one more shout out.
Logo was on Raja's truck.
I want to give one more shout out to Honeycutt because I just realized he's from Texas. He's from near Fort Worth, Texas. So what's
the population of that town in Texas, Eric?
It says according to Google, he's from Willow Park, Texas, which has a population of 4,900.
4,900.
4,900.
That's actually kind of small. I mean, I don't know if that's like tiny, but that's pretty small.
It's a smaller town.
It's still crazy that we went to where Bush was from, and I was like, "What are they talking? They talk
Willow Park,
small place. It's just outside of Dallas."
Willow Park was the location of Trinity Meadows Racetrack, one of the first horse racing tracks opened once Texas legalized parimutuel betting. What does that word mean? All right, is that just another word for horse?
The more you know.
Must be, I guess.
Equestrian sporting events.
I saw you were going to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on Honeycutt real quick because I didn't have his numbers right on hand because he's running part-time. But if we throw out all the other races for that 45 truck and just use his, he would be a top 10 restarter in the truck series, having a retention rate of 77%. And he's gained 14 positions on restarts, which would get him darn close to one of the top 5 restarters in this series for positions net.
Someone to keep an eye on for sure.
All right, guys, I think it is time to first, before we get to the big round, I think it is time we look at some of our super chats. And our first super chat stage break of the night, I'm going to end the poll, by the way. I asked if they're voting for Carson Hocevar to be in the All-Star race. 65% are voting Team Carson this election cycle heading into North Wilkesboro.
You're on the clock.
Oh, I'm on the clock. Okay. From the outside line for 5, if Kansas keeps being good, why can't Kentucky get a chance? Also, what do you guys think if Blaney ever did a Mayfield Mobile One inspired car? I would like that.
That would look really cool.
That would be really cool.
And I said I would be fine with a one-off Kentucky race. If you prove you're good, you get another year. Like until if you string a bunch of years together, we can start talking about a real comeback. Hunter Nixon Fishing for the 10 says, I find it funny how people on X were saying Larson had to drive dirty to win the race. To me, that was old school beating and banging to the line, both drivers refusing to lose. People really are idiots.
Damn, ended strong.
I love it. This is an opinionated show, and we have an opinionated audience.
I asked for opinions, I received.
NASCARson for the 10. Hey guys, Kansas, trucks boring. Cup, great race with wrecks and a close finish. It still doesn't beat Darlington 2003 since better broadcasters and an underdog in Craven won. I mean, I personally put that race over it, but that's just, I mean, I want time for the recency bias to leave before I leave a final judgment. Bailey, thank you for the 2. Herps to the 34. FRM history and brings money. We'll talk about front row and Stuart Haas's future in a bit.
I think he's on the short list of potential candidates.
I think so too. Isaac for the 2. May the supremacy of McDowell live on at Spire. Yes, you know me well. McDowell supremacy. I have his diecast right here in my desk. Chris, thank you for the 5. Proposal to the group. No longer shall we use the word late. Instead, henceforth, late shall now be substituted with foxed. And I'm not reading the end of that, by the way. By the way, Eric, did you just put your phone up there? Because I'm on a different tab right now.
That's fine. I'll just go when it's time's up.
Okay. Jam plays games for the 2. Hey, still a shorter weather delay than 2020 Texas. Yeah, we're the first podcast to ever be weather delayed.
Yeah.
And Fred Dog for the 5. Good to see you guys are safe. Well, thank you. We appreciate it. What do you make of the rumor Teresa Earnhardt is giving up the trademark to the 8 and Dale Jr. finally can take it over? I will believe it when I see it. I feel like she's the type of person who would wait till the day of the deadline just to sign it, just to be an asshole.
Oh, hey, I'll renew this.
Though she hasn't pursued it yet. And June, I believe, 3rd is the deadline. So something to keep an eye on. I would love to see a real Dale Jr. throwback to the 8. Oh, damn. I'm going to read the last one here. Triple P Productions. Thank you for the 5. 28 Daytona Xfinity officially ruled as 4 10,000ths of a second. Why couldn't NASCAR go to 4 digits for this finish too?
They're lazy. Bunch of lazy bums. I don't know.
Because it's expensive.
Yeah. Math is expensive.
I'm sorry. I just can't get the out of my head.
Yeah. It was effective, right?
It was. It kind of scared me. Maybe, hey, Danny, maybe around here, since we don't have tornado sirens, we can have that be our siren.
Someone needs to make that their ringtone.
Yeah. Make that your ringtone and tag us on Twitter with the video of it being your ringtone, and we'll all retweet it.
I'll call you if that's your ringtone.
Yesterday, we figured out that our county doesn't have tornado sirens. We went out my back door and we heard when it was ringing across the lake from the next city over there across the lake, but we don't actually have one in our area.
Real quick, because I see this in the chat and I am a nostalgic fan that was around in 2007. Spam free the 8 in the chat for those who remember Ricky Rackman's big push back in 2007. I actually made a sign and got on NASCAR race day with free the 8. It said Teresa free the 8. And Danny and Eric, I think you saw it in my grandpa's garage. It's hanging up. We're making
wait, what race was that, Jarrett?
Chicagoland, 2007.
I'm about to look up to see if there's a clip from race day. I'm looking it up though. Someone may have uploaded it.
But there was story time here for a second before we get to the lightning round. There was and I love the free the 8s in the chat. There was a storm rolling through that weekend, and me and my grandpa made a bet for $1. And I said it would stop raining at 8:30, no, 8 o'clock, and he said 8:30. It stopped raining at 8:16, and so he had me hand over the $1, and me, being the petty asshole kid I was at the time, crumpled the $1 up in my hand as small as I could and just dropped it in his hand. He kept it crumpled up and still has it in the garage in the same spot he put it up when we got back in July of 2007 on that Teresa free the 8 sign. So little iceberg lore for you on that one.
Yeah, I cannot find this clip, but if NASCAR ever creates their streaming service with all their archive pre-race shows and stuff, I will be hunting you down.
We are about 25 likes away from the like goal for tonight. The random driver segment we'll do right before the Darlington preview. But first, guys, we had a really long version of this for the past 24 hours. It is more of the lightning round. And look, I finally got struck, Danny. I finally got struck. It finally hit me.
Don't say that word. I got some PTSD now.
That, by the way, if anyone saw that picture of me, Danny, and Shugs asleep, passed out on Danny's couch last night, that was like the 30 minutes of the eye of the storm where it was peaceful before it started back up again, and we were so worn out. And I had been up since 6:30.
We had no power going on hour number 3 at that point, so we were just ready to sleep.
That was the most guys being dudes photo I've seen in a long time.
Well, and everyone said I had the dad sleep pose of my head back and just arms laid out.
It
And
looked
We
like Thanksgiving.
each had a different dad sleep going on. You had this one, and I had that one.
God, I'd been up since 6:30 that morning because I was on Purple Daily that morning, and I was tired. I had 3 hours of sleep leading up to that before a long night. But speaking of a terrible segue, because I couldn't figure out a smart ass thing to say, let's look at the first part of the lightning round here. A shout out to the Spotify crowd and the poll on there. I asked the simple question: how many Fords will be in the playoffs this year? 0% said 4 or more. 14%, I believe it's 14, said 1. I can't read my own handwriting. 28% said that 3 Fords would make the Cup playoffs, and 58% said only 2 would. So the Spotify crowd thinks only 2 Fords will make the playoffs this year.
Rough.
Yeah, it's basically just, it is Blaney and who. Now, a couple other...
Sure, maybe, I guess. I don't know.
Briscoe's in the playoffs right now. Pretty comfortably, I thought. Maybe wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's a matter of if there's some surprise winners, though, because the cut line can shift.
By the way, Herman Alvarado just posted a link to that picture if you want to pin it for a second.
Oh, God. Yeah, I got you. I got to make sure I don't hit the... I'll pin it here. There it is.
There's currently 4 Fords.
Oh, I hit the wrong one.
You pinned the wrong one.
I can't get it on my phone. Like, I have fat fingers. So there we go.
Everyone type 4 now.
Yeah, spam some 4s in the chat while I pin the right message. Anyway, talking about some of the news here. Let's roll through the lightning round real quick because we got a lot to talk about in the second half of the show. Matty D will run the rest of the season for 2024 in Xfinity in the number 38 Viking Motorsport car. That news broke this week. Dale Jr. broke the iRacing side of the internet as they are scanning Kevin Harvick's 03 Brickyard 400 winner and Matt Kenseth's 2003 championship winning car, which reminds me, give me a moment. If someone wants to read the next part of the lightning round really quick, I actually have a show and tell when it comes to that 2003.
I'll just say this, add to it. Scan a Dodge, you cowards. You can scan an old one.
Connor Mozak, the ARCA winner from this past weekend, will drive the JRM 88 Xfinity car at the Roval later this year. And this one was funny. It broke while I was at Kansas. Buc-ee's has secured 57 acres of vacant land outside of Kansas Speedway.
That's cool.
So the Buc-ee's dominance will continue.
Anywhere.
All right.
Carson. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Jared. You're back.
I got my show and tell. So I like to order different older elite scale die casts. And especially like the champion ones and Winston Cup champion ones, just because I like to be an asshole about it. And I got the last Winston Cup champion, Matt Kenseth, elite scale 2003 championship winning diecast. These are so damn hard to find.
Yeah,
I got it for $20.
That's huge. That's huge.
I like when I saw it, I was like, no way. I just kept saying no way, and then I called Risson here. I'm like, you gotta see this. She's like, it's a toy car for $20. Who cares? I'm like, you don't understand what I've been going through to get this car.
I've got 2 versions. I have my elite one is on the shelf, signed by Kenseth and Jack Roush. My dad got me that for my birthday a few years ago. That was a pretty cool surprise. And then you can see it right behind me. This is a 1/18th scale.
Yep.
2003 car.
Do I spy an Eric Jones back there as well?
Yeah, on the ground. Well, not quite on the ground. The bottom shelf got it's fitting. It's the Southern 500 win right there.
All right, before we get too off track, we'll get through the rest of the lightning round here. So Carson Kvapil will run 6 more JRM races in the 88 with Clariant as the sponsor. Let's see if he can finish a different position than 4th. Prime and Warner Brothers Discovery have confirmed they signed Dale Jr. for their NASCAR booth. Shocking news, I know. He's also going to participate, though, in a Bleacher Report digital and social content series that Dirty Mo produces. So all I'm going to say is, man, NBC fumbled the bag bad. Chevy has announced today they will officially be ending productions of sedan cars, announced by the New York Times. Now,
It's interesting since weren't they also planning to cancel the Camaro too?
well, yeah, that's part of it. They're basically not making cars anymore. They're making SUVs, but not like sedan ones, just, those and trucks. And people were saying like, oh no, there's no way that they're going to be able to run in NASCAR. It's Cadillac now. Well, back in 2004, Dodge had a generic Dodge car that they would run. It was, between when they had the Charger and the Intrepid, and it was just a generic Dodge body. So if they want, they can run just a generic Chevrolet if they want.
Let's be honest. The Chevy SS a few years ago was basically that. I don't think I saw a single Chevy SS on the streets.
They eventually made a street version, but I want to say that the NASCAR version come out before the street model did.
It did.
I've
I think
seen
they
more.
just made one to match it.
I've seen more cyber trucks on the road now than I ever saw Chevy SSs.
Well, I saw a Chevy SS once.
Wow.
In my dream.
It's a unicorn.
It is.
Hey, maybe they'll just find a way to bring back a newer Chevy SS. I don't know.
I'm going to take you off track for just half a moment
Okay.
here. When they do put the new Chevy in for next gen, whenever that happens, we've got a serious problem, which is NASCAR going to move the goalposts and make the new Chevy now the mark for what the body aero thing is supposed to be? Because to me, this is extremely frustrating and mind-boggling from the team perspective that NASCAR basically just took the Chevy and said, all right, can't make it any better than that. These are the rule numbers now. And so then everybody else tries to build a car that meets those aero numbers. That's absurd. We got to make the aero numbers before the cars, but that's
essentially when they were in the testing phase of the next gen. If you recall, the ones that you just see like NASCAR had was basically just a Chevy Camaro. It just didn't have Chevy branding on it.
Real quick, I want to shout out those watching at home right now. We have hit the 400 like goal halfway through the show. We got to raise the like goal on my channel, I think.
That was quick this week. No question.
So we'll take that off the top here.
Well done, y'all.
We will get to I promise we will get to the random driver of the week segment. Well, let's finish the lightning round and get into some of the news here. Last little bit here that I want to talk about. Next week, in 6 days, we will be on Eric's channel at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. As long as the storm of the century doesn't roll through again, we should be live. We will have some special guests, or at least one special guest, I should say. The one and only Slap Shoes will be joining us. Cannot wait to hear from him. I need to talk to him about Smiling Friends because the new season comes out on Sunday and I know he watches it. But also we have added some more guests for the end of May and going into June. So we have a lineup of 3 more guests to talk about for the upcoming weeks. May 22nd and July 17th, David Land will join us. He's really excited about it too.
Our 500 special.
Jeff Faviano joins us May 29th, coming back on the show for the first time, I believe, in 2 years. And June 5th, for the first time, I believe, in 5 years, Raw Gator will be joining us live. He is also returning to YouTube soon as well. So
that's huge. Don't
want to miss that one. But let's focus on the here and now moving forward. We got some news to get into this week, guys. The headlines, we didn't even make a headline, basically. We just basically said, okay, we know this is going to be headlines of silly season and reckless speculation. So we're going to have to power through these. First off, Michael McDowell. McDowell's supremacy is going to Spire. He's leaving front row. It looks like, and they talked about Zane Smith had kind of been on loan to Spire for a year. The rumor is he's going to be moving to a third Trackhouse car because there's charters flying all over the place. And just as wild as all of this has been, we're just going to be wild right now. I'm going to throw it to our panelists. Whoever wants to go first, go with it on first thoughts of silly season news I don't think a lot of people publicly knew about.
No, did not see this one coming. I had heard about a month ago that Front Row is likely to make some interesting moves. I took that as they're expanding. Then there's a wacky rumor a few days ago that they might merge with Stuart Haas. I don't know if that's true, but I didn't expect Michael McDowell to be the first driver out of his current seat. And before the ink had even, or the ink on his contract dried so quickly, within a few hours, he was already moving to Spire. That was already confirmed. They did not delay that. So I didn't see that coming, but I think this is a good move for McDowell. I imagine Ford is going to get better before they get worse, but if I was a Cup Series driver, I wouldn't want to be driving a Ford right now. I'd much rather drive a Chevy. I think Spire is a couple years behind where Front Row is. They're both ascending teams that have invested a lot more into their programs recently, but Front Row's made the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years with Michael McDowell. Spire hasn't even sniffed the playoffs yet. So I do think Spire is behind, but with all the changes that could be coming, with Gainbridge invested, he's a veteran over there. That team currently has 2 rookies in filling those 3 seats. Like, I think he's going to make that team better. And who knows, down the line, if a 4th manufacturer joins, Gainbridge, Andretti, I'm just spitballing here. That could be a very exciting team to be a part of a few years down the line. All rumors, all speculation, but McDowell said it today. He got multiple years from Spire, that stability, which I think he wants at this stage in his career, where he's probably only got a few years of prime racing left.
Whoever wants to go next, go ahead. I'm putting a poll up.
I'll take it.
Go for it.
Interesting decision. Michael McDowell's in what's currently so far this year the 23rd fastest car, and he's about to get into the 31st fastest car. Now, mind you, it is being driven by Zane Smith, who is a rookie and is just figuring things out, but the team cars aren't looking much better with LaJoie in 29th and Hocevar in 25th. I mean, that's not great. You're also getting out of a car that has just become a key partner organization, which is about the most important thing in NASCAR, and getting into one that's technically not. I don't know what the future of that Spire team holds, as Eric kind of alluded to, but it's an interesting move. I like the move a lot from Spire's perspective to get somebody who has some experience into the car, because I think that when you're trying to build a team, you need somebody that you can trust their feedback. You can't just have a bunch of young guys in the car trying to figure out. I think it's helpful to have some back knowledge there. The other thought that I had, the only thing that I don't like about the move from Spire is those of you who followed David Smith in the motorsports analytics days and the positive regression days, he always used to say that a driver's peak age of production is age 39. Yeah. Michael McDowell is currently in his age 39 season, and I think that the production peak is actually younger now in the next gen car. I don't have anything to prove that, but it's my personal observation, and so I don't know. I don't love the move for either side, but I understand why it was made. I think there's some upside there for McDowell, but I do think there's a lot of things to wonder about.
I think it just comes down to that stability. I don't think he'll admit that, but I'll bet the money he's getting in this deal, and that's probably at least a 2-year deal. I think that was attractive to him, is my guess.
Spire's been throwing cash around like crazy. It's insane.
Sorry, Danny, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's all good. I know the talk is on McDowell here and all that, but I kind of want to turn the attention back over to the Zane Smith factor and all this. And the leading rumor is that, he would go drive a 3rd car for Trackhouse. I'm just going to say this respectfully. When the heck is Trackhouse willing to go put him in this car after the performances that we've seen from Zane Smith this year? I mean, arguably a guy who's been in a similar, the exact same equipment, Carson Hocevar, has looked phenomenally better, consistently throughout the season. They both kind of, I think Carson's kind of been on the radar of the people at Trackhouse too, because, Chastain working a lot of Nice, where Carson come from. You would think you'd want to focus more on maybe him, but I'm sorry, Zane Smith seems like, yes, this is a huge improvement for him on paper, but is this going to be the right step for Trackhouse? I'm just not sure right now.
That's a great point. I imagine it's easier for Zane. He's already under contract with Trackhouse to make the move, but I don't know what Hocevar's deal looks like. If you were Justin Marks right now, which driver would you rather have in your Cup car next year, Carson Hocevar or Zane Smith? I still think Zane Smith is a great race car driver. I could see him.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I've seen what he can do.
If he goes to Trackhouse next year, we could see a resurgence much like Noah Gragson this year, where he looked lost as a rookie with a kind of a weird team. That's kind of what that 71 is right now. It's sort of a Trackhouse team, sort of a Spire team. Get him in a true trackhouse car, the true environment he's supposed to be in, and I'll bet Zane Smith could flourish next year. But
I wanna point
to your
something
point,
out.
I put Zane on a tight leash for sure.
that's fair. I think that's fair.
I want to point something out really quick. I put the poll in the chat of who they thought the best Spire guy would be between LaJoy, McDowell, and Hocevar. 54% at the moment are voting McDowell to 37% Hocevar. 9% LaJoy.
I think for next year, now that 71 is sucked this year, is it going to be the same people on it? Probably not, because it won't be a trackhouse car anymore. But that concerns me. But no, I think on paper, that's correct.
I don't know, man. Carson Hocevar has really overperformed what everyone thought, and he's a rookie. Like, he has plenty of area for improvement year to year.
I looked up their ages. Zane, I mean, they're both young. Zane's 24, Carson's 21. You know, we're talking 3-year difference.
And this comes from a guy who is a McDowell fan. I mean, I have a McDowell diecast. How many people can say that?
I think Hocevar has more raw speed, or I think by next year could have more consistent raw speed than McDowell. But McDowell, the veteran experience, execution, he's made the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years. I know some of it has been fluky wins. Daytona was a fluky win, but like last year at Indianapolis, that was not a fluky win. Carson Hocevar is nowhere close to putting on a performance like McDowell put on last year.
He was running top 5 at Bristol last year.
Carson Hocevar is not going to dominate a race this year or next year. You can take that to the bank.
Oh,
Michael McDowell could. McDowell could.
I'm also curious if Loves carries over with McDowell, because I know they've been a front row for a long time.
I don't think they do. I think
they're staying in front row.
It's going to be weird seeing McDowell somewhere different after all this time, because, what was it? Was it Levine Family Racing was the last place he was before this?
I think you're probably right.
In the Caleb radio car.
That's right. I think I have a diecast of that. I have multiple Michael McDowell diecasts, and it's kind of odd. Again, McDowell.
It's not odd. That's your brand. That's your thing.
And I do have a McDowell flag from his Daytona 500 win that's going to be hanging up on my wall.
You're a super fan, dude. What the hell? I didn't realize this.
And I have a drawing from a fan that Danny hand delivered to me from Daytona of Michael McDowell's winning car. I have it. Actually, it's the highest thing in this room outside of the Dale Jr. rookie Bud sign that Danny got me.
You have been, fun fact, Jared, you have been to half of his Cup Series wins, have you?
Yes, I have. I was at the Daytona 500, and it was awful. It was one of the worst races I ever saw that had at least a good ending. And when I say good ending, it was a good driver won, and it wasn't just the same guys as usual. But I think moving forward, though, when it comes to McDowell moving over there, I mean, I had said last year, like, about, keeping younger guys. Now, I will admit, at least short term, I've been wrong about Zane Smith, and then they've made the right decision in the short term to keep McDowell. But I think the 1-year contracts was the killer on that. At his age, I don't see him wanting to just keep it up in the air and have every year be a tryout year. But they're not the only ones that have rumors moving forward, and it's not the last we're going to talk about them tonight. The rumor mill has been swirling around SHR for a while now. First off, we have some high school drama to talk about. Chase Briscoe, Noah Gregson, and Josh Berry have been having study halls without Ryan Preece, and Preece found out through Twitter, and he was not happy about it. Apparently now they're letting him in. The fourth wheel is being let in, but am I overreacting by saying that's kind of telling when it comes to who the odd one out at the moment, at least, is that they're not going to tell him they're in the same building every day? I mean, if I'm avoiding somebody, like, I'm just thinking back to high school now, because it's what it reminds me of. Like, if I'm avoiding somebody and I want to hang out with our mutual friends, I don't invite them, and the mutual friends don't invite them. Like, that's just how it goes.
I'm laughing at the "don't do that" memes in the chat. Yeah, definitely. I mean, sure, we don't really know, but it feels like Preece is the first guy to go if and when Stewart-Haas sells a charter. And now there's reports that more than just 2 charters could be for sale. They could be selling some of their the buildings on their campus. They could sell other parts of their racing operation, according to Matt Weaver. So no, there's a lot going on at Stewart-Haas, and I don't think anything's finalized. I don't think anything's definite at this point, which is why it's so fun to speculate. But I think everything and nothing is on the table for next year at the same time. This could be super anticlimactic. Maybe, maybe they sell a charter, but everything else kind of stays the same. Maybe they merge with Front Row and like, oh my gosh, what? It could be anything under the sun at this point. That's what makes it interesting.
And looking at that part of it, I mean, they've been like I said, shopping it. They've been shopping it out, what the charter prices would be, and that rumor. I mean, how would the merger work between Front Row and SHR?
I don't know if there's any truth to that rumor. I just feel like,
but it doesn't get out there for no reason, does it? I mean,
It's
like Harvick
wild things get out. Some wild things get out.
Yeah.
it'd be like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they would stay a Ford key partner, presumably. So that's nice. That would be good for them. Doesn't stretch Ford too thin because it's still would end up being a 4-car team likely.
I'll ask you this, and I want all three of you to give your options of who you think it would be. Who would, saying it'd be a 4-car team probably, who would the 4 drivers be of the ones in the Front Row side and the Stewart-Haas side? If you had 4 drivers you think it would be, who would they be?
Chase Briscoe, Todd Gilliland. I think it'll be Barry or Gregson. Let's say Gregson for now because he's performed better than Barry. And then I think Cole Custer. I think Cole Custer factors into this somehow, some way. I don't know why. I don't know exactly how, but I'll bet there's a Custer on the horizon.
Or perhaps Riley Herbst. He's ran for Front Row before.
That's another option. Yeah, for sure.
The first thing I noticed from this whole situation is if SHR is holding 3 driver study halls, clearly there's no data department, and that's a right shame for that organization.
Got him.
That's a disgrace. My 4-car team, I got to go Todd Gilliland to start with, and I got to go Chase Briscoe. Briscoe's your franchise guy. I think Gilliland's massively overperforming in that car and gets not talked about as much as he probably should, especially last year. I throw Gregson in there for the upside, and I probably hang on to Barry as well, just because he seems to work well with Childress.
See, for me, I think it all comes down to money. Money and who they can sell the right way. Now, again, you could probably merge all the sponsors in together, so I don't think it's too much on that. But I think Priest is easily the odd one out. But I'm going to agree with what we've all said. I think Briscoe for me is the safest because he's Stewart's guy.
The only way Briscoe goes anywhere is if Stewart-Haas leaves Ford. I think he's tied to Ford somehow, so that could make things awkward if they split.
Mahindra signed to him. I mean, he's like one of the only drivers who has a commercial with their sponsor.
Yeah,
and that nowadays that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I'll go Gilliland as well. I think that the Front Row side, they need that continuity, especially if it ends up just being a giant Front Row. Like what would it be? Like Stewart Front Row Motorsports, Front Row Haas? There's no way Haas will lead it.
Sleeve is calling it for sure racing. Front Row Stewart-Haas racing.
So I got the 1438 at the moment. I'm going to go Noah Gragson just because he is vastly overperforming what a lot of people thought he would. He's been, I think he's been remarkable this year. I'll go Herbst for the money. I mean, you're bringing that monster money, and I get, there's a conflict of interest with the Gibbs side of it. I think performance-wise, and he won, but I think Custer would be the one.
Put him in the 41, get the 41 monster Ford back out there again.
But the Custer side of it, too, is, if we remember the talk before Custer was taken out, isn't his dad a partner with Gene Haas?
Joe Custer, right? Isn't that his name?
So if the Haas problem is there, I don't see how Custer would be part of that.
Unless it seems like Andy's has bought into Cole now.
But how many races do they sponsor on him though?
A couple, probably.
But how much could that translate to Cup?
They've been sharing the love across many drivers over the last few seasons, though, so they could go all in on one.
So, why wouldn't they put it on Gregson maybe then? Especially the further away he gets from his suspension.
Because you can't come up with a creative flavor named around Gregson now, can you?
You got Cold Custard right
Cold
there.
Custard. It's in the name. He was born to represent this brand.
He was born to sell ice cream.
Think about this, Jared. Would you rather have a nice, tub of cold custard, or would you rather have a tub of Gregson? What is that? Like a Rocky Road variation? Maybe. I don't know. Doesn't
I feel
sound
like
too
you'd have to do
delicious.
something with Noah on that one. Like you'd have to use the
I
first name.
know I don't want that flavor.
But I'm still gonna go Gregson on that one. I would say it's a toss up between going towards Herbst's direction. I think just because of the money, Herbst or Custer. I would choose Custer if it were up to talent and giving him another chance. We saw what it did with John Hunter Nemechek for the most part. Compared to how he was that first go around, he has improved immensely. What do we got? What do we got?
Laughing at this. Serve the Gregson ice cream in a bowl cut. That's funny.
Oh man,
God, I forgot he did that. What the hell is wrong with that
I
guy?
remember I was right there, like 5 feet from his bowl cut face getting punched.
Yeah.
Triple
Bowl
P
cut bullet was a look for sure.
Triple
Gosh.
P Productions brings up an old sponsor for No Gregson, Wendy's. Greg alert, Major Greg alert.
We need to move on. Let's move on to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. We don't have to talk too much about it because the deal is done. It's just the rumors around it. Old Ricky is signed for 3 more years with JTG that might not be JTG. It's in the midst of the Kroger JGR rumors, but at the moment, a contract is there. Is there really anything to add to that?
I don't know what the real future is for JTG, but I'm going to go ahead and say this. This is Stenhouse's last contract. I think this is the one he ends on.
What do you think, Grant?
I think that I don't know anything about the JTG situation, but here's what I do know. Anybody that's familiar with the podcast that I used to do with Ben Amato and may bring back with Trey Ryan, we'll see what happens. Go back to an early episode. I made an argument, maybe it was episode 1, 2, or 3, one of those, that I think Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has an interesting opportunity to be one of the most random asterisk Hall of Famers of all time. I think Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is capable of going into the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and I can make an argument that I can stand on. Eric's nodding his head because he knows what I'm talking about. I can make an I have the stats in front of me. I did this like a year ago. But basically, here's the situation. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is a 2-time Xfinity champion. Yeah. There's another guy he's got 2 Xfinity championships. I don't remember his name. Maybe you guys will remember.
Dale Earnhardt Jr.
No, not Junior. No, stop it. Not Junior. 2 Xfinity championships, roughly 27 wins, I think. And the argument that I make basically is, would you rather have 2 Xfinity championships, 10 Xfinity wins, or 7 Xfinity wins, however many it is, a Daytona 500, and 7 to 10 Cup wins? Or would you rather have 2 Xfinity championships and 5 Xfinity wins? Because I think that Daytona 500 is worth more than 20 Xfinity races. And there's a guy not named Dale Jr. with roughly 20 Xfinity wins and 2 championships. Hopefully the chat knows who I'm talking about, who can find him, that's in the Hall of Fame. And so because of that, I think you can make an argument that Stenhouse goes in, and I think it's that 500 that lifts him over the top.
I think he needs to do one more spectacular thing to be in the conversation. I don't think he's in the conversation yet, but if he wins another, let's say he's a 2-time Daytona 500 winner and those 2 Xfinity championships, yeah, he's going to be on the ballot. He may not get in, but he should be on the ballot once he becomes eligible, no doubt. But he's going to need to do one more spectacular thing, and it's not going to be winning a Cup championship. That's not going to happen. So he needs to win another Daytona 500. Then we can talk.
What this argument is telling me, though, is NASCAR needs to be like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and put people in by series. That's what they need to do, in my opinion. I've been on that.
Maybe someday.
I'm just throwing it out there. Austin Dillon should be a Hall of Famer. He's won a championship in 2 series.
I mean, I think put him in Xfinity and as an Xfinity driver and truck driver. That's my thing. Is like, if you want to shout out people in the lower levels, I don't think that we should base it all off of a Cup career, because what Stenhouse or what Dillon did in the lower series deserves recognition compared to a lot of drivers that have succeeded in Cup. It takes different skill sets in every series. It's why there's a lot of probably great modified drivers. And I guess now you can count ARCA in with NASCAR, who may never get the recognition they deserve because there's so many great Cup drivers. That's just me though. I could go off on that tangent forever. We do got to move.
Oh gosh, I've made a cruel error. Sam Ard was the Xfinity driver I was referring to.
It makes sense.
2 championships, 22 wins. Would you rather have 2 Xfinity titles and 22 wins, Would you rather have those Xfinity titles and a Daytona 500 championship? I'm taking that Daytona 500.
Well, Ard,
That thing, I just realized the chat's pointing out I'm going to accidentally get Austin Dillon qualified for the Hall of Fame because
Don't you
he
dare.
has a championship in 2 series and he has 2 Crown Jewel wins, a Coke 600 and Daytona 500.
And he was 1 lap away, basically, from winning the Southern 500.
Yeah.
Remember that year when he charged up at the end when the Truex Elliott deal went down?
Yeah.
So, but we got to move on. We will be on this forever, and we are an hour 40 in already.
Next week we will induct Austin Dillon into the NWP Hall of Fame.
I don't think did a single person vote for Ricky Stenhouse top 75 drivers last year.
That's a crime. That's a crime. I will not stand for this Ricky Stenhouse slander.
No,
it was the running joke on my podcast while it existed that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is a future Hall of Famer, and I don't want that to die yet.
He needs one more Daytona win, which is maybe a big ask.
But let's move forward a little bit because we have 2 more giant things to talk about. First off, I'm just going to lump this all together as OEM news. Toyota executive Ed Laux, I believe,
I think,
had said that Hyundai could be another OEM that could be a viable option for NASCAR. They would need NASCAR, though, to go with the plan that they continuously push back and say they're doing different things of having hybrid engines by 26 or 27, which is also the way that Honda would be able to get in. Now, Eric, you kind of knew a little bit more about this than I did. So kind of tell me a bit about what Elton Sawyer said on Dale Jr. Download today.
Yeah, this afternoon I caught up on Dale Jr.'s interview with Elton Sawyer this week, which was enlightening. The first half was interesting if you watched racing in the 80s and 90s, Sawyer talking about his driving career. And then what I got interested in was his transition into leadership roles within NASCAR in the last decade. And now he is he the VP of competition? I forget his exact role, but he's the go-to guy when things go wrong. He's usually the forward-facing soldier who has to explain a call, issues with the car, what have you. And so he was on Dale Jr.'s show this week, and he made it clear that any new manufacturer will not get into NASCAR if they don't change the current engine technology. Like, no one's building a V8 pushrod engine. Honda won't, Hyundai won't. That's why NASCAR continues to explore alternative fuels, alternative power sources like hydrogen. They've been working on with Toyota. They've been at least looking into what Toyota's been researching. Full-on hybrid engines is a possibility. And what was sort of alluded to during this interview that I found interesting was that we could reach a point in the next couple of years where manufacturers can kind of run whatever engine, whatever power supply they want. And as long as they are within a certain box as far as horsepower numbers, torque, what have you, if Chevy wants to stick with the engines they got now, but Honda wants to bring something completely different to the table, that might be allowed. That could be. That's on the table in the next few years, which I found very interesting.
I am excited by that. We briefly talked about it before the show a little bit, but it's not exactly one-to-one because there's not a one-to-one comparison like this in NASCAR history. I mean, unless you want to go back to the 40s on the beach, and of course everyone's bringing everything and souped out and whatnot. But there is a point in NASCAR history in the late 90s into the 2000s where horsepower being brought to the track and the way that the engines were built were vastly different team to team. Now, manufacturer to manufacturer will make it a little more difficult, but there were races. I believe it was 2002 Brickyard was the one I saw at one point where Bill Elliott had, I think, less horsepower than like 40 or 50 less horsepower because of the different way the engine was built and whatnot. But of course, the other side of that is they had to work on the body for the aero side. But they worked more on the aero and handling side and on the speed aspect there rather than just the raw power. And I believe they won the race that year. It was the year that he won is when the numbers got taken from that or something. I don't quote me 100% on that, but it's in that vein. And it kind of reminds me of in the 2000s when I started watching. I will always bring up Dale Jr.'s win at Chicagoland. Matt Kenseth, his car was more of like a power car, just go fast, and he dominated the race, whereas Dale Jr.'s was more of a heavy downforce car. Get that car in clean air, and it's flying away from you. Even with 2 tires versus the best car all day with 4, it was able to beat that car. Give some control back to the teams. Even if it's the manufacturers as a whole, I want that control given back in some way. It might make intermediate suffer a little, but it might improve the others in amazing ways. Like, I am all for innovation and change like that.
It would be a significant departure from what NASCAR has always done. Because even when teams used to tinker heavily with their own engines and with the whole cars, they build their own cars from scratch effectively. Ultimately the engine technology was the same across the board. So if you're talking about bringing in completely different power supplies, team to team, manufacturer to manufacturer, that's radical. I don't know.
Denny said they could do that.
No, they can't. I'm not saying they can't. I'm saying, and I'm not even saying it's a bad thing. It might be really good. What I was going to say was, the next gen, even the playing field made things equal. That was fun at first, but now that teams are figuring it out, we're seeing the drawbacks. So we need more variability. The cars are all the same. The drivers all see the same data. So if the engines effectively could be a way for manufacturers to differentiate from one another, that's a storyline. That's something to follow. Now, it's not exactly very visual. This is a spectator sport, and we're never going to see what they're doing to their engines to make them better than their opponents.
We'll hear
but
it.
You might hear it, or you'll see it on the scoring sheet, I suppose. So, I'm all for things that add variability, I suppose, because at a lot of tracks it could increase passing. It'll also probably lead to more dominant wins. So we do have to take the good with the bad. Larson might win 10 races one year if Hendrick hits on something, but I'd be interested because it's another wrinkle. It's another element of competition added to the fold. And like I said, it would be such a radical departure from what NASCAR has always done if we had not just different engines, but different full-on powertrain, different technology car to car. Like that feels, NASCAR's never, as far as I understand, NASCAR's never done anything quite like that. So that would be interesting if that's what it comes to.
And everyone can hear my sirens going off, as of course they will. We can't have an episode without the sirens going past. But I want to bring something up about the present when it comes to this. So Elton Sawyer basically said the engines we have now, no one will come in if we have them. And if NASCAR does want to keep it the same, like more than likely, I still think they will. Why can't we increase the horsepower a bit more? If it doesn't matter to keep the horsepower down, why not increase it? If these are going to be obsolete engines.
It's a good point. Elton Sawyer did say that he didn't talk about like going up to 800, but he did say 1,000 horsepower would significantly increase costs. Take that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
But 800, he didn't talk about 800. Maybe 800 is doable. I don't know.
I'm just saying, why can't we, even if it's a short tracks, we had a short track package in the Gen 6. I get that it won't change a ton, but all these things added together. I mean, you don't have to build as soft of a tire if you're Goodyear if you have more horsepower, because you're going to probably wear a little bit more of it off. Again, not a one-to-one easy equation here, but I think that this stuff is kind of flown under the radar with all the silly season news and schedule news, because it's just so interesting when it comes to the long-term effects that it'll have.
I just think it's interesting too because, and I'm not a genius in this respect by any means, but from what I understand, from what I've read, the automotive industry is kind of spinning their wheels right now because they're not really sure what the future is going to look like. Is it going to be all electric vehicles? Maybe. Is it going to be hybrids? Maybe. Is it going to be alternative fuels? Maybe. And I think that's part of why I feel like these Honda rumors have been floating for years. The Dodge rumors floated for years. Now Hyundai is being tossed into the mix. Like, I think no one's pulling the trigger on anything because they're afraid to commit to one, I guess, technology, because it's just the world is changing so quickly. Everyone's sort of waiting before they dive headfirst into one avenue.
I'm the only one of this panel who has experience in car sales. And granted, it was 2019 when I was doing it, but I don't know. Just for me, what I've seen, what I've gathered, look at things online, I don't see enough demand for electric cars. There is a demand for them. I don't see enough that companies should be in any hurry to feel like they need to just focus on that.
The problem is in some states by like 2030 or 2050, you have to sell it. You can't make gas powered vehicles. Like, there've been some laws which could obviously be changed. Like, so it comes down to demand, comes down to government regulations. It comes down to what's cost effect. Like, there are so many factors that I think everything is just in flux. Everyone's afraid to commit. That's the way it feels from my expert perspective.
California is the big state when it comes to electric cars, and even they at this point are realizing like we can't do this. Like it's just too much of a burden. We have to push it back. And you're starting to see again the automakers, they're looking at that side of it too, and they're seeing what other options they have.
Are we convinced we'd have this is a separate discussion, would we have an electric grid big enough for the entire United States?
Hell no.
Exactly. No, that's an actual question.
Infrastructure is not equipped for that, and it won't be for long. And this is just talking the car side of it. I don't want to bring any politics into it. It's just the nature of the beast right now with it.
Yeah, I care less about the politics. I'm more worried, would it even work?
I just don't want my power to go out in the middle of the summer.
My personal concern living in Nebraska is all weather related. If it gets darn cold here in the winter, and as soon as it gets cold, that battery life goes.
I lived in the Midwest too. I was up in Illinois, and there were people that like I would know from Chicago, and they're like, "Yeah, my friend, can't they have to get picked up every day because their electric car just won't start for 3 months of the year." And God forbid we have a race like that Kansas race in 2020 where I froze my ass off, and it's like 34 degrees as a high that day. Listen, I lived in the Midwest. I can deal with cold, but there's a difference between dealing with cold and doing stuff and dealing with cold by just sitting down on aluminum bleachers. The car side of it, like there's so many questions. I don't like, a lot of people are worried about, this coming in the next 5 or 6 years of electric cars in NASCAR. At this point, I don't even see it in the next decade and a half. Just because the industry is so unprepared to go into this.
I think you're right.
Last bit though, long-winded headlines here. Let's talk about the schedule, guys, because as NASCAR fans, we obsess about this. So first off, during the broadcast, Mike Joy just casually dropped, we might be racing at Bowman Gray soon. And at first I was thinking, like, is it going to be the Clash, or is it maybe Xfinity or Truck or ARCA or a new event entirely? Well, then Jordan Bianchi released his schedule findings. I love that he's more obsessed than any of us, and it's amazing. Didn't
he break the schedule last year? I think he released it before it was official.
Yeah, I love that he's digging into it, but also I'm like, Jordan, just shut up. I want to be surprised every now and again.
Hey, I know. The biggest surprise in this athletic article is that the schedule is likely to be released this month.
Yeah.
That's like the earliest in, I don't know, ever. No, maybe
I'll
not.
believe it when I see it.
Fair enough.
But
I think that's a good point.
I still think it's getting released early summer because I don't think there, like we'll talk about in a moment here, I don't think there's many huge changes. So let's go into it. First off, let's talk about the Clash. It's looking to be at Bowman Gray, and there will not be a race in Southern California.
And wasn't it literally just a few months ago where there was a report saying, I will be highly surprised if we're not racing in Southern California?
Steve Phelps said we will be in Southern California.
Maybe they'll visit LA for a show.
Yeah, maybe the banquet will be in LA. I don't know.
So what do we think about the Madhouse getting the Clash? Can it work? I mean, it worked at the Coliseum.
It'll work.
It's gonna be freezing though.
Yeah, that's my only concern. Is it will be very cold, but I like this.
I think the chances of snow or slam rain, who knows? But
I think it would be great in the long term to bring the Clash to other stadiums around the country. But in the meantime, this will be cool. That place, the vibe there will be insane. Grassroots feel like. As long as the weather doesn't suck, I think this will be cool. At least for one time.
Keep Corey LaJoie away from the lead and keep Bubba Wallace away from anyone during that race after what happened in 2012.
Yeah.
That if you haven't watched that was a great race. Old K&N days, I believe. I'm excited.
Clash.
What's up?
Do we know that it's going to be the Clash?
That's what they're saying at the moment.
I mean, it's either that or the All-Star. It can only be either of those two.
I think that's an interesting decision because I think that the good identities that we could have of the All-Star race being the grassroots event, and the Clash being the find a new fan event. I really liked the idea that some people had brought up of taking the Clash overseas and putting it in big stadiums all over Europe. I think that would have been obviously an expensive idea, but gosh darn it, it'd have been cool.
And I think that's the key there. I think their idea with this is instead of driving them all the way out to Los Angeles where they lose a bunch of money and then driving them all the way back to get ready for Daytona, is you're just driving them like, I believe –
couple hours.
Bowman Gray is like 60 some miles away from Charlotte. And I think it's a total money move going into this new deal when new stuff's changing. But I'm excited. Like
It'll be cool.
Don't get me wrong. I would love the idea of like NASCAR Cup Series drivers racing at Wembley Stadium in London, but the thought of the teams having to fork up that money and go over there, I'm like, I'd also be happy seeing top Cup Series talents race a one-off in NASCAR Euro cars in Wembley Stadium too. I'd be down for that.
The European mind cannot comprehend would finally get to come to its full fruition. It would be lovely.
We gotta bring this up next week when Slap comes on. He's been on this train since 2019 and probably earlier about Bowman Gray. But let's talk about the rest of it here. Easter. Apparently Easter is going to be off. I find it funny because a lot of people saying that Easter needs to be off for being a holiday and important will sit and watch 3 football games in a row on Christmas and not bat an eye. Just saying. I think I'm the only person in the NASCAR world at this point that's actually against this.
Oh, that you want the race? You want the race on
Easter? I mean, Easter
I'm
night
indifferent.
is a ratings hit.
Yeah, I'm indifferent. I think it's a ratings win. I think it's my only thing is the industry, I think, is already on the verge of total burnout that I'm okay giving them this weekend off. That's like the trade-off I'm okay with.
Yeah, I'm not mad or anything if they race on Easter. I mean, chances are I'll probably be in Las Vegas going to WrestleMania and for Easter. It's going to be Easter weekend next year.
I don't know. Nothing screams Easter like Vegas and wrestling.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not going to put it up to a poll either because I already know how it's going to out. By the way, I did put up the poll earlier about what manufacturer they wanted coming in. Both won Honda won the vote at 42, both at 35, neither at 18, and 2% just want Hyundai.
Hyundai catching strays.
Yeah, I drive one. It's been working pretty well. Now another thing here. Mexico, a race in Mexico would be replacing the spring Richmond date. And from what it sounds like, the industry is just not behind Richmond. They don't think they should have 2 dates. And
Good.
Jeez. Vicious.
I mean, it's not proving enough for me.
No, that's fair. I know. I agree.
It wasn't good in the Gen 6 or a good amount of the COT era either. You can blame the cars as much as you want, but Richmond has not delivered since the Gen 4 era.
Yeah,
largely.
I like him. I'm happy with going to Mexico. I don't remember. Did he say Mexico City or was it? They talked about Guadalajara.
It was where they used to go in 05 to 08. So I believe.
So it'll be Mexico.
City.
It'll be Mexico City then, which I think is good. Yeah, logistically it'll be expensive, but every other sport's going international. My Astros just played a 2-game series in Mexico City, so baseball's doing it. Yeah, so I'm like, I think it's smart to start in the continental U.S. I think the Mexico City fans will love it. I think it'll be good.
I'm gonna skip one of the really big things. We'll talk about the finale last for a moment, but we'll skim over one more thing before we talk more in depth about another. Daytona back as a regular season finale. See, all the Doomers needed to just take a breath. No,
we all figured that would happen.
We knew. Montreal more than likely will be on the 2026 schedule. Will not be this year.
Dang.
Which they just push it back another year. So I'm in the believe it when I see it camp. Let's talk about the finale.
Would that basically be like they go to Mexico City and then probably go to Montreal the same?
No, they'd go they go to Mexico City in the spring and Montreal in the summer probably.
So it's still go to both then.
I know a lot of people were worried that Iowa could lose a date for Montreal. But I don't see how it would be around that date because I believe Formula One races there around the same time. At least
they race there, I think, in June. I could be wrong.
Hold on,
maybe that's why they want to do it.
Yeah,
actually,
take that Iowa race away as soon as we get it, and I'm gonna throw hands. Oh my gosh!
I'm with you.
I mean,
oh yeah, it's the week before.
I'm happy it's back, man. But I got a bad feeling it's gonna look a lot like Richmond.
It ain't. It's not gonna be good. It's not gonna be good. We gotta fix the short track, but that's a topic that I could go on for an hour and a half. So I'm gonna say
at least it's a sellout crowd. So y'all are at least gonna make it look like it's a exciting race.
Real quick, F1 is the week before Iowa would be, so there's no way it could replace it date-wise on the schedule. It would have to. I heard the earliest it could be was probably August, which would coincide with the second Richmond date. But I don't think that's going to happen.
That'd be too much.
But
good. No.
Big guns.
Hey, Richmond's not bad. It's just an acquired taste.
The
Just a
fuel-
slow
I think
burn.
it's a little much.
The fuel
but-
mileage is.
You need to check your taste buds if you think that's a good taste.
Yeah, you just-
Damn,
it's-
Danny.
Well,
Jeez.
I used to slander Richmond all the time, but we can do one a year. Two's probably too many.
Yeah,
but
one
one
a
a
year.
year.
Can you-
One is fine, and give me one less Phoenix, please. If it's going to be the championship,
Yes.
it's the only
There we
race.
go. All right, now Danny's cooking.
Yes. All right. Well, that leads us right on into the finale here. So, unfortunately, the finale is probably coming back to Phoenix. It was actually confirmed by the Miami-Dade City Council, who had said that NASCAR already confirmed that with them. So we don't need to say probably. It is going to be the finale in 25, but that same city council meeting has been pushing, and the city itself of both Homestead and Miami have been pushing to bring NASCAR back to the finale and, quote, will make it a Super Bowl style event. They want it pushed. I also saw that Homestead Miami is looking to make major renovations over the next year as well. I believe it was our buddy John Ramos who said they need a Daytona Rising level renovation. And Eric's losing it. What the hell what did I say?
No, I'm so sorry. This is so off topic, but I just looked down my phone. I'm like, oh, I got tagged in something 30 minutes ago. Jonah made
And then
my
I didn't have to listen to it. I knew what that was.
he made it into a ringtone.
Am I tagged in
Wait.
this? Oh my
you
god,
might
I
be.
am.
My God, not
I'm
me not knowing how to
retweeting
use my. Wait, hold on. Sorry, there's a delay.
Dude, I am making that my text tone for you.
That's hilarious. All right, I'm so sorry. Let's talk
Oh,
about
okay.
Homestead.
So, yeah, Homestead, baby.
You guys could have started on Homestead. Actually, no, I was going to say I need to let the cat out, and I turned over. He's walking out the door. He's already tired of waiting on me.
Well, anyway, so Homestead is very much putting in a bid for the 26 finale. NASCAR,
As they should.
Yeah, I'm just saying this right now. It needs to be, and it needs renovation. That place right now, I'm gonna go with the same word that John said. It's ugly. I mean, it's just you just have random poles all over the place. You have random scaffolding from the grandstands they tore down, and it's a rundown old facility. It's a great racetrack that needs a finale, but it needs renovation. The racing deserves a finale. The facility does not, and you need both.
I'll stand by what I said a few weeks or months ago. I think in my perfect world, in a few years, we'll get a 3-track rotation for the championship. Phoenix, because Phoenix, I think it's a good championship track. It's not great anywhere else. Should have one date a year, but it's good for the championship. Miami, and then I would say Auto Club short track if and when that ever gets built. 3 big markets. 3 tracks that I think would all put on at least good racing, not chaotic racing. It's not going to be Daytona, Atlanta, Talladega, all warm weather. I think that trio you could rotate year to year. I don't mind Phoenix getting in another year. Like, it's not an amazing track by any means. Hopefully they continue to tweak on the next gen, the tire combo, and it gets a little bit better. But I don't want a crazy championship race. I want a straightforward race where the fastest cars can race without too much insanity potentially taking them out. So I'm okay with Phoenix for one more year, but I do hope Miami gets it in 2016 or 2026.
This is where you got to look at it like other sports do. How boring would it be if the Super Bowl was played in the LA stadium every year? It was cool when it was first brought there. It's a fairly new stadium. Hey, this is nice new facility. We're here for the Super Bowl. We'll be here for the next 15 Super Bowls, guys.
Well, I agree with that part. Like, I don't think it should be the same place for 15 years, but I think NASCAR-wise, I think you can deal with having it for a few years, like 2 or 3. Like, I think a 2 or 3 year run, the finale's there. People know well in advance. You announce those next 3 finale dates. Everything's ready to go, and people have that time to plan for it, buy tickets. We're like with LA. Like, you kind of knew it was coming back, but at the same time, there's always a rumor that it wasn't, and you didn't know the exact date yet, and the 3rd year was up in the air, and then it actually happened, this and that. Chicago's kind of the same way. I kind of see it going the same path, where the 1st year's amazing, 2nd year, better race, but people don't see it as well, and the 3rd year, they get it right, but it's just the end of the line. I would be fine with, like, 26, 27, 28, we do Homestead. And then if the Auto Club short track's ready, we do 29, 30, 31, or was it 20, 28, 29, 30?
Something like that.
Something like that. Well, actually, yeah, it would be 31. So you'd finish out the current TV deal with that. I'd be okay with that. I would be A-okay with doing that, and you just do 2 or 3 years for it. You keep it fresh. You keep the drivers having to guess generally throughout their career with it. If you're going to keep this kind of format, that I think that's how it should be done. Because what are we on now? We're going on to what, year 6 of Phoenix with this? With 2025 would be year 6 of Phoenix as the finale. It's old. I'm done. I don't want it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I agree.
You can pass at Homestead, and that's one thing that I really like. We talked about the difference in pass efficiencies at Kansas being like 47% was the high pass efficiency with William Byron. Last year, Denny Hamlin put up a 64, almost 65% pass efficiency at Miami, which is just an absurd number. That is insane. Wow. That may be the best number of the year. The bottom number was McDowell's is probably wrong because it says it's a 0. He may have crashed out. But there's a couple other guys at the 7 to 8% mark. So a good gap. We like to see that.
What do we guys think? We got it about covered?
Yep. I think so. Just for final fun segments, I think are all that's left.
We got the fun segments, predictions, and super chats. So let's get into our predictions and accountability, which this week, guys, it's probably the biggest bloodbath of the year. So to give everybody who's new to it or at home a rundown our predictions, each of our hosts and guests will make 3 NASCAR motorsports or show-related predictions. We'll keep track each week of right and wrong predictions as an accountability session. Please keep the predictions concise within 2 to 3 years, just so that we're not chasing down predictions a decade from now. And we will go in a rotation, starting with our guest. He'll do the first one, then each person does their first, and we'll just do that rotation 3 times. As for our accountability session, guys, like I said, it's not good. I said that the Cup race would be over 3 hours and 15 minutes long. I was 4 minutes off.
That's pretty close.
I was close. And I said Jimmy would finish top 25 at Kansas. He
was running when he crashed.
Yeah, he was, and he was getting better until Corey LaJoie happened. Eric, you said 4 of the 5 top 5 finishers would be Toyotas. They were not.
3, right?
2, I believe. Denny and Truex, because the other ones were Elliott, Larson, and Buescher.
Yeah, and Bell was right there, but yeah.
You said someone in the booth would mention air in the last 20 laps of the Cup race. I did not hear it. You can correct me.
It was mentioned with 26 laps to go. Harvick mentioned aero blocking, and I heard that and went no. I looked at the lap counter and I went no. There's 26 laps to go. You're kidding.
You also said Zane Smith would finish last.
Yeah, that was just
it's too bad they weren't like at that with that finish and be like, oh, I can't breathe the air. I can't breathe right after that.
Danny, congratulations. You got the only one right. You said NASCAR photographer Dalen Barr would tweet his infamous picture from Kansas that has been known as Ass P at least once by the end of the Kansas weekend. He did right before the end. This one should have come off the board last week. You said Icy Vert would have been blocked on X by a major NASCAR figure by May. Did not happen. Shockingly. Toyota, you said would win one of the 2 races, and it would be a JGR car. We made you not take the layup, and it cost you.
Yeah.
We can't do layups. That just makes I love layups. We can't do layups. You also said both Trackhouse cars would finish top 10. I believe neither did.
Neither did.
Man.
So our prediction percentage, I am at 38.1. The fall has been mighty by me, but I'm still in the lead. Eric has got 33.3. He's got a third of them correct. Danny has caught up a bit to 32%. He is right in.
Those layups, man. Them layups. Actually, no, not that many layups, honestly.
But let's get on into it. Grant, lead us off. What is a prediction? NASCAR, show any of it. Motorsports, even if you want. What's your first prediction?
All right. So I am going to go with the first one being we will see at least 2 Cup Series championships left out of the playoffs this year. Ooh. Here's why. There's 2 guys that I'm eyeing up that are potential options, each with a couple Cup Series championships. The first is Kyle Busch. Currently sits 12th in the playoff standings. But here's what's interesting about Busch. According to my speed rankings, the median lap ranks, Kyle Busch currently is the 16th fastest car in the field on non-drafting ovals. But here's what scares me coming into the summer months. His short track speed is really, really bad. He averages a 22nd place car. That's just not going to cut it. The other guy that I'm watching is Joey Logano. Joey Logano is currently the 14th fastest car in the field on non-drafting ovals, averages a 17th place car on intermediate tracks and 15th on short tracks. I think that it would be a surprise to me if they both made it in. So I'm saying one of those two drivers misses this year.
I like that prediction. That's a solid one. Jarrett, you're next.
All right. I had to make a new prediction because one of mine went off the board with the schedule stuff. So luckily I didn't make the prediction. So I think at least 2 of my 3 predictions on the Purple Daily segment, write that down, that I was on this week, will be right. Those 3 predictions were: 1, Teddy Bridgewater would lead the Skull Chant. He just retired. TJ Hawkinson would be at the 2024 Nashville race. He's been at the last 2. And I also said that at least 2 weeks of Colin Cowherd's herd hierarchy would feature the Vikings this season. So if any of those happen this year, I get this prediction right.
I didn't even know Teddy Bridgewater retired. That's news to me.
Well, I'm a Teddy stan.
Well, I'll keep mine on the racetrack. And I'm not just saying this because our guest is here, but I think it was smart to keep him out one extra week so he could be fresh and 100% for Darlington. Eric Jones, I'll say finishes top 10. Not going to go crazy top 5. I think he has 1 top 10 this year. I'll go Eric Jones nabs a top 10 finish at Darlington this weekend.
That's very brave, very bold. I wouldn't go for that one. But I am going to say my first one is related to you, Eric.
Oh, that's amazing.
Eric will post a video. I don't know what about, but between now and the end of the season, that goes crazy viral and reaches 1 million views.
I haven't had a million view video probably since I did stop motions. So that's a reach, Danny.
Yeah, I haven't had
I hope it comes true.
I don't know what it's going to be, but you're going to have, I feel it in you. You're going to have one just take off and hit that trending tab for some reason.
What would have to happen in the NASCAR news cycle for like a news video to hit 1 million views?
You want a positive or a negative reason?
It would have to be a negative. There's no way a positive story hits 1 million views.
Probably, I think the only way is a driver passing away.
I think so too. I think that's what it would take. No, I think you're exactly
I don't want that. Gosh.
Yeah, I know. Now, we're really making Danny look bad. Now, I didn't mean for it to be that.
I didn't mean that, but I'm just.
I was hoping like we say like, they tied, or something like that.
Well, I mean, a piece of tape got you on the trending last time, so
that's right. That's true. So it doesn't. I guess you're right. It doesn't take much.
I won't say it got me on trending, but it got me 100,000 views too in like a day and a half. So that was pretty damn cool. So
yeah, put more tape on the cars.
Gosh, I just thought I was gonna have a positive thing for Eric, and y'all make me feel awful.
The internet is a negative place, Danny.
Bobby in the chat says my last video to reach 1 million was 6 years ago. It was a stop motion. So there we go.
Well, you can make a stop motion from
We got to keep this rolling. We got to keep
Crack
the trainer rolling. Grant,
sorry.
Let us know what's your second prediction.
Eric apology video.
My second prediction is going to my boys at Legacy Motor Club. I got to stay in theme. My guy Jimmy Johnson is not done yet. We will see at least one more top 10 from Jimmy in his career. And I think that I can make a decent claim for that. That stems from he actually had the 18th fastest car this weekend at Kansas, and that gets overlooked. Sure, he didn't get the finish. He also put up some really impressive, while inconsistent, speed numbers because he was having a lot of accident problems at the Coke 600 last year. I think Jimmy still got it, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand about Jimmy is he truly is one of the most genuine guys in the garage, and he's willing to listen and he's willing to learn from people, and he's really trying to attack this new car. I don't think he's fully lost it. I understand that he's not going to contend with the Kyle Larsons and the guys that have been running this car since the very beginning, but I think there's one more top 10 on tabs for Jimmy Johnson in his career.
For a second, you were going to be bold and say that he's going to win.
Oh my gosh. I'd love it. I'd love it, but that's ambitious.
I'm going to stick on the motorsport side for my second prediction here. And I know a lot of people, even in this industry, who would not want to see this. But I think Fox Sports will land the rights to IndyCar It's been rumored so much. They're clearing away a lot of room of NASCAR and cash, especially later in the year as well with Xfinity into the summer, especially everything Indy 500 onwards. I think they're going to land it.
An IndyCar race up starring David Land coming soon.
Mike Joy calling the Indy 500. Well, it's
Okay,
just Adam Alexander.
I could be down for that.
Adam Alexander calls the Indy 500.
My next prediction, I don't think they're going to end up merging with Front Row. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do think Stuart Haas will sell 2 of their charters by year's end.
My number 2 is for this weekend, the Cup Series race. We will have a drama-free finish this weekend. No repeat of Larson Chastain.
So no drivers mad, none of that. No Hendrick statements.
No late race passes.
It's gonna be someone's got the lead and they come through and finish it, and there we go.
Well, there we go.
And now we get to our third round here. Grant, what's your final prediction?
My final prediction is that someone will win. Someone will have a 10-win season in the next gen era.
Ooh.
And I think that this will happen because I look at last year's median lap ranks, and Kyle Larson had a top 5 car in the 4th quarter of the race on non-drafting ovals 31 times is what I count. I don't,
Wow.
I think that, or sorry, wait, whoops, my bad. That was a calculation I made from an algorithm. That was a points number. But so let's divide that. He had it roughly 15 times. Sorry, I had to double it. I had a predictive algorithm that I was trying to run. But basically, I've noticed a trend that the field is starting to tighten up. And so we have guys like Larson and Hamlin who are really good at their craft and have good crew chiefs who can inch out that last 1/10 of a second. And I think that this is going to create a more stagnant field, basically. And I think that you look at a Larson, a Hamlin, or a Byron, and I think that any one of those 3 could pretty easily put together a 10-win season. I don't think that's done for Denny Hamlin this year.
I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people complaining if there's a 10-win season. Because if it's anyone but Larson, it better be Elliott, because that's the only way that people will be happy. But I'm going to make
There's 2 cars before him.
People aren't ready to hear this, but Denny Hamlin's good enough to do it this year.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm on watch for it.
I mean, I believe Larson this far into 2021 had 2 or 3 wins. So it could happen.
The first 10 races that year, different people won.
Let's get to the final predictions here. My final prediction, and I don't want to pick on this person too much, but it's almost on a clock now. Harrison Burton will wreck or spin at least 2 more times this month in May.
Yeah.
It happens every race. It's not even his fault most of the time.
Just go ahead and give yourself a point.
Now Wachi actually doesn't and is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I can give you the odds on that. Harrison Burton actually has a 25% crash rate this year. So in every race, there's a 25% chance he's involved in an accident. Furthermore, there's actually a 33% that he crashes out of the race.
All right, we go.
Someone said
11%. I read Chris Bell's. I read Chris Bell's.
Okay. What?
The chat says math sucks.
I read Chris Bell's. That's my apologies.
Man.
Bell's is pretty high. That
Man.
does make sense though.
Exactly.
My final prediction is that Corey Heim will make another Cup Series start before the year is over. And that probably has something to do with that 2311 teaser they posted today. I don't know for sure, but it would not shock me if that's Corey Heim. They're teasing Mobile One. Heim was in that Mobile One ad at the beginning of the year with a bunch of other drivers, to be fair, but I'll bet it'll be him.
Danny, what's the last prediction of the night?
Somebody from Fox's Cup broadcast team, so either Mike Joy, Kevin Harvick, or Clint Boyer, will accidentally call a current Cup Series driver by the name of the throwback scheme they are in. Example, calling Alex Bowman Jimmy Johnson instead.
Not as a bit, but they'll accidentally legit
that.
call it
Yeah.
Johnson in third. Sorry, Alex Bowman in third.
Gordon.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I could see that happening.
Yeah.
But the thing is I could also see them not making it or making it a joke the whole time. So
Yeah,
I like that one.
If it's obvious, it's obvious. But
yeah, let's move on though. We got one more segment, and then we can get to the preview. It's a jam-packed show tonight. So, panelists, I need you to hide the chat so that you do not get the random driver of the week spoiled. So turn the chat off, put face down or whatever it is, change a tab for random
like this.
driver of the week. As we are still late in the show, approaching 600 live viewers. Thank you all for being out this long. I have everything ready. So, random driver of the week. I give you all of these clues. You have 3 guesses you can give at any point. And I'll let you know if you're right or wrong, and we'll go from there. After 3 guesses, if you're wrong on all 3, you're out.
Eric, put that down. That could be cheating by having that in front of you.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
All right, guys. Are you ready?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm putting my blindfold on.
Oh, my God. All right. Let's roll on into... Man, we rip on Fox for jokes, and then we roll with however many we have. Let's get into it, though. First clue here for the random driver of the week. I actually attended this random driver's final Cup Series start in 2007. This random driver had their best NASCAR Cup Series finish in their final Cup Series race.
Oh, wow.
By the way, Grant, you can ask questions. I have the liberty of answering them or not.
Okay.
This random driver's final NASCAR win was in a race that he led only 1 lap in.
Wait, what was the last thing you just said?
The random driver's best Cups finish was at the race that I was at, his final start.
So this is an Xfinity or truck win he must have gotten.
Yes.
Okay.
I had to make sure on that.
Mm-hmm.
This random driver has only made 3 ARCA starts. So not
I got
much
nothing
time
so
there.
far.
This random driver was sponsored by Taco Bell at Front Row Motorsports.
Oh.
This random driver had their Cup career viewed as a field filler. So, did not run up front in Cup. This random driver never made a start in the Daytona 500.
Huh.
This driver missed out in their only attempt at the race. And the chat has not got it yet.
I'm stumped.
This random driver's highest points finishes were as followed in the top 3 series of NASCAR. 46th in Cup, 35th in Xfinity, and 10th in trucks.
Oh.
No one's got it still in the chat, at least from... Oh, okay, some have now. Not too many. Any guesses? Danny, I can see the wheels turning.
I'm just blanking on who all drove that dang Taco Bell car.
All I can think of is David Gilliland, and I know that's not it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
This random driver finished 10th in truck points in 2 consecutive seasons.
Can you tell us what years those were?
No.
You didn't write it down.
No, I'd give it away.
Oh. Would it really, though?
I really don't think it would.
I don't think it would.
Not for us.
Well, maybe I'll let it go later then. I'll write it down at the moment. Maybe I won't, though. I have the liberty to do so. This random driver's last NASCAR start was in 2008 for Key Motorsports.
Okay, I'll make one guess. Jason Keller.
No. So Danny's got one off the board here. This random driver drove in the truck series for Key, MBM, and ThorSport, among others.
It would have been in the early ThorSport days.
I just got a text from my dad going, "What the F is Eric doing?"
I'm just want. There's no smoke screen here. I can't see anything. I'm sorry. I can't.
All right,
cheating.
This random driver also drove in the Xfinity series for Jimmy Means. Chat's starting to get it now.
This is not my area of expertise, I must admit.
This random driver recently has come out of retirement from racing.
But his last race was 08. How?
You didn't say NASCAR racing, but I don't know. Who's like trying to think of who would have been. What's an
Can I
older
take a
driver?
guess?
Yeah.
Kenny Wallace?
No.
I definitely remember him racing into the 2010s.
I think he made some occasional
He actually
starts.
almost Kenny Wallace, off topic here. Kenny Wallace actually was the driver initially planned to drive the 22 after AJ Allmendinger failed his drug test.
Oh, wait. You said the points finish was like 46. Never mind.
This random driver's first race out of retirement was the 2022 Snowball Derby.
I don't know.
This random driver in his career drove Chevys, Fords, Toyotas, Dodges, and Pontiacs.
They're old.
I'm just watching the chat be like losing their minds. This random driver's best cup finish was at Chicagoland Speedway.
Yeah, you
in
were there.
replacement for Mike Bliss.
I don't recall Mike Bliss missing much. So
Yeah, I don't know. I got no. I mean, this is not.
This random
Oh, shit.
driver DNQ'd 23 of his 37 Cup Series attempts. So DNQ'd more than made starts.
A real household name, this one.
good for them.
This random driver also made their first overall NASCAR start in the then Busch Series in 1993.
Good for them.
Yeah, that's great. Can't say I did that.
This random driver in Cup drove the car numbers 34, 49, 61, 92, and 98.
Those are some field filler names right there, numbers right there.
Nothing yet.
When you said 92, I thought I had an idea, but then you said their last race was 08, so it's not what I'm thinking.
Well, the last overall race, yeah. This random driver is a two-time Truck Series winner. By the way, we only have 7 clues left.
Yeah, this. You might get us this time.
Yeah.
This random driver is a two-time track champion at the Nashville Fairgrounds.
Who would have? I'm going back to that Thor Sport clue. I feel like I should know who would have raced for them. Would have been like early 2000s.
Maybe.
Maybe.
This random driver, while having success in the short track ranks and Truck Series, is actually well known as well for having a crash at Daytona that many know.
A lot of people who've had big crashes at Daytona.
Now I'll find out how many people listen to me on this panel. Last year, I interviewed this random driver.
On this show?
Nope. Not on YouTube.
You didn't post it?
Well, who did
No,
you interview?
I was on
Where were
Racing
you?
America at the Nashville Fairgrounds.
Oh, okay.
I might have a guess, but no, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna give me another clue.
Come on, man! You got 3 guesses to burn.
I got
and
nothing,
4 or
dude. I
5
got
clues. There's 4 or 5 clues left, give or take, if I
No.
can stretch this out.
All right, no, I don't know.
This random driver also has never been tweeted about by the 3 main hosts.
Right, that's gonna help us.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
This random driver also drove in trucks for Jermaine and Bobby Hamilton.
And not many people drove for Jermaine now, did they?
Well, recently, I didn't listen to this full.
If you're gonna say a driver's name, Eric, make it a guess because your track record has shown you give away the answer.
That's true. I shouldn't do that. I've given
Be
away a few
wise,
answers.
Eric. Be wise.
I don't know. I'm gonna make a fool of myself, so I don't want to guess it. Give us another clue.
The years this
Nobody.
driver,
I get.
the years
Go.
this driver won in trucks were in the early 2000s, like 2000, 2001 era.
I don't.
You're gonna finally get us, I guarantee it.
Actually, well, two of the hints I gave were like if nobody got it and I had to like start spelling their name. Do you want me to scratch those so it can be fair?
Yeah, don't do those super obvious ones.
All right, then I'll take the last one out for sure. This random driver hails from Smyrna, Tennessee.
Smyrna, Tennessee.
Where is that?
It's like south of Nashville.
Yeah.
No.
Dang it. Who is it?
Who drove that Taco Bell car?
You know, you guys all have guesses to burn. If you just want to throw names out that it might
I just
be,
didn't have like
go
a.
for it.
I fold.
You're
I don't even
out?
have like.
I'm
I don't
out.
even-
Okay.
I'm gonna just embarrass
I was
myself.
stumped, so I looked at the chat.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you for your honesty on that. I appreciate it. Host, come on. Danny has 2 more guesses to give, and Eric has 3, and we have 1 more.
I've
clue.
got no one that's
This is
coming
like-
to mind.
This is like when I do the Wordle and I get down to where it's like I don't even know a word, a 5-letter word that would fit this space. Like it's not even that I can't find the word. Like I can't find a word. That's where I feel like right now, which is pretty bad.
Well, the only other thing I have is clues about their name. So at that point, like we don't have any more racing.
give us the
clues.
first. Give us the first one. I bet I'll get it.
So random drivers' first and last names start with the same letter.
Oh, that's not who I was thinking.
You know, like Eric Almirola kind of thing.
I
It's
see-
not
and
Eric
I-
Almirola.
I can understand English, Jared. Give me some credit.
No, I still got nothing.
Nothing. Come on, there's got to be someone. Throw a guess. Maybe you'll hit
No.
it. Throw something at the wall.
No, you
I
just made even.
understand you guys' pain. I couldn't come up with a name that even fit the description vaguely, you know?
I remember the Taco Bell car. But I don't. The only driver I ever remember driving it has already been a random driver this year.
Yeah, we don't repeat. I will give you 30 seconds to try, and then
No.
we'll end it. Just give it a shot.
Billy Bob. No,
Jarrett Lundberg.
no, I'm trying to think of names that start with the same. Adam Alexander. I can't think of anything
Okay,
right
well,
now. I'm
you
brain
got
dead,
15
dude.
seconds.
We're 2.5 hours into a 2-hour show. I'm lost right now.
You got 10 seconds. You throw a name out. Maybe it'll hit.
Earlier, about midway through, I was thinking Carrie Earnhardt, but that's obviously not correct now.
3, 2, 1. You want to know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chad Chaffin.
Who the hell is that? I honestly have never heard of this person.
It's like one of the best short track racers through Tennessee, and has also been he was the one that flipped in the 30 Germain truck at Daytona in the race that Jimmy Spencer thought he won when he did.
And what year was that?
2005.
Ah,
Oh, okay, I do vaguely remember that.
No, chat, you don't win. You're the peanut gallery that makes fun of everybody.
so
So I
Chad
win.
Chaffin, congrats! You are the ultimate random driver. When I think of Chad NASCAR drivers from Tennessee, I only think of Chad Fincham.
Literally, I was
Yeah, I don't
my
know who that
last
is.
my last one was the letter is C, and then I was just gonna start spelling their name until somebody guessed.
I will be completely honest. I've never heard of him, which is
Really?
I guess that's bad. No,
Damn, I finally
I thought you
won.
said Charlie Chaplin at
I
first,
mean,
and I was like,
I've
you drove?
heard of him. I didn't quite think that he was from Smyrna, or I don't remember him running the Taco Bell car.
Well,
Yeah, I'll know. I'll have to do my research. If you say he's a great short track racer from Tennessee, I
And
mean,
I feel like I've seen that wreck, but I just assumed that was Todd Bodine.
yeah, I don't. Exactly.
let's get into Darlington since I finally won one of these. Now let's speed run through the preview so we can get to these picks. So this weekend, we have Eric Jones back. That's the biggest note I have. If you guys just shout out your favorite throwback for this year, go for it. Just shout them out.
Juniors on the Elliott car.
I'd probably go with Larson's Terry Labonte. I know that's probably basic, but
I'm going Larson.
Firestorm.
Yeah, I'm going Larson. So we're we're sticking with Hendrick won this year. So the races this weekend, we got the truck race, the Buckle Up South Carolina 200 or some variation of that name. It's 147 laps long, 45, 45, and 57 are the laps for the stages. 7:30 Eastern time is our start time. FS1 and Fox Sports app got you covered. MRN and Sirius XM as well. 81 with a couple showers early in the day, 42% chance of rain. Christian Eckes was your winner last year. The Xfinity race is the Crown Royal Purple Bag Project 200. Again, 147 laps. Stages are all the same. It's weird at Darlington. 1:30 on Saturday, Eastern time that is. FS1 and Fox Sports app again. MRN and Sirius XM got you covered. 76 sunny and a 2% chance of rain. Kyle Larson is your defending winner. The Goodyear 400 is the throwback race. 293 laps, 90, 95, 108 are the stages. 3 p.m. Eastern time is your start. Just like the other races, FS1, Fox Sports app, MRN, Sirius XM, you know the drill. Via the National Weather Service, it's going to be 78, mostly sunny, 3% chance of rain. No William Byron is the defending winner. Guys, we alluded to it earlier. We have the pick points ready to go. Let's pop them up. I don't have my belt here at the moment because Danny is having it on layaway for me. I am leading by 6 points over the chat, 15 over Danny, and 26 over Eric. We are all within one race of each other. Any one of us four could be last or the leader at the end of this weekend. Whew. I wanted to speed run through that because we got so much to pick. So let's just get it started here. Grant, start us out. Who is your pick to win the truck race this weekend?
I might be wrong, but Kyle Busch is on the entry list, right?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
You would have to be insane not to pick Kyle Busch, in large part because his KBM 51 truck was the second fastest car in the whole race and the fourth quarter the last time the trucks ran at Darlington. 19 truck was incredibly fast as well. I had a hard time going against him, but I'm taking Kyle Busch.
Then I will take. I didn't have that exact data to back him up, but my number 2 pick was Christian Eckes. I think he goes back to back, so I'll go with Eckes.
Yep. Bush was my first. Eckes was my third. So I'll take the number 2. Time. Corey Heim.
This is what sucks about being the one that has to pick last as a leader. So let's look at the chat because they went in that order as well.
They can't have Heim time like they want.
No, they cannot. So I'm seeing Chastain's, but they're still putting up. Yeah, they're going Chastain, I think.
They're going Chastain.
Yeah, that's their backup.
Okay.
All right. So then it leaves me, the odd man out, who has to look for the rest of the rest. I'll go Raja Karuth. He was running for the win last year in this race. He has improved immensely, I think, as a driver since then. And I just want to see Raja win.
Cool.
Grant, lead us off. Xfinity winner. Who we got?
Give me the 17 car out of Hendrick Motorsports. That car last year was the 4th fastest car in Darlington the last time it ran there, and the 2nd fastest car in the 4th quarter of the race.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, I feel like Darlington's going to favor the vets, so I'll go with another Cup guy, Eric Almirola, in the 20.
Just going right in the order.
Great pick. That was the fastest car here a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm actually going to be the first one to be different. I'm going with some young blood in this one. This car was in contention for a win here a couple of years ago. This is a good driver. It could suit him well. Give me Jesse Love.
And the chat, I think, is going... I think they're going between Chandler Smith and Justin
Allgaier.
I think actually they're going Allgaier now.
Feels like Allgaier.
It's very much split between 81 and 7.
I'll put a poll up really quick. Neither of those are my picks, so it doesn't matter how long the poll takes. So while I'm putting the poll up, I will give my pick. This driver was consistently up front last year, finishing up front as well. Give me Austin Hill. It's like the one place that's not a super speedway that he seems to contend for wins at. But now there's 18. Jesus Christ. You get what you get. There's your vote. Don't change it.
I think they're going to pick 7 is my guess.
Yeah.
So this will be the quickest poll ever. Grant, lead us off. Who's going to suck this weekend in Cup?
Give me Alex Bowman, 18th quickest and 29th quickest in the 2 Darlington races last year. Just not great speed out of that 48 car here historically. So
mine's not going out on a huge limb. I know he had a great playoff run here a few years ago, but I'll go Austin Dillon. I don't think anything's going right for the 3 right now.
I say this with no disrespect to you, Grant, but I'm scared it's too soon for Eric Jones, and he's going to be mine for this one.
So we picked all the 7-timer numbers so far. 48, 3, 43. Chat is, I want to say, is that Joey Logano that's popping up a bunch?
First one I
I'll
see.
take y'all take a lot of
He went from winning here a couple years ago to second now, apparently.
I'm taking a layup on this because they don't award points. I'll go Austin Cindric.
So it's a layup.
All right, who's the dark horse this week?
Absolutely got to be Josh Berry. That 4-car last year at the 2 Darlington races was 7th and 5th quick. That's crazy out of a Stewart-Haas car on an intermediate track. Got to be the 14th.
I don't know the numbers. I think Brad Keselowski is going to weasel his way into a top 5 finish.
Excellent pick, Eric. The 7th and 10th fastest cars here a year ago. Love that one too. Almost went there myself. It just wasn't a big enough limb for me.
I like
So
it.
this is the one where we are allowed to agree, and I was with Eric on this one. Brad Keselowski is my underdog for this one.
Booyah, booyah.
Chat is agreeing with me on this one. Noah Gragson. I think that he just manages to find a way up into the top 10. Doesn't matter if he's
To
good
be
or
fair,
bad.
Eric Jones is getting a ton of praise.
Like seeing those 43s in the chat. There we go.
Either way, we'll count either one because I don't think anyone's picking either of them.
That's like whose line is it anyway? The points are made up. It doesn't matter for that pick.
But with that, let's lead us off. Who is going to win this week?
I'm going to have to go with Kyle Larson. I'm doing it very begrudgingly. I'm between Larson and Hamlin. I can't make up my mind. I'm only doing it because Larson had a top 10 car in both races a year ago, fastest in the fall, 6th in the spring. It's so hard because they're both so quick on intermediate tracks. They're both head and shoulders above the field. But I'm going to go Larson.
You took my number 1 pick in all 3 rounds, so I'm getting my number 2 pick in all 3 rounds. Let the record show. I will go Denny Hamlin to win.
Yeah, that was my number 1 and number 2 as well. So now I've got kind of a toss-up. I wrote down 2 names here, and I may regret not taking the other one, but you know what? He showed last week he's got the ability to be up front. He was contending for this one a year ago. I'm going with Ross Chastain.
Oh, thank God.
Ooh,
I thought you were taking one of mine. All right, chat. They had a lot of ones, but other than that, it's 24. I think they're going William Byron.
I think they're going Byron.
It was between Ross and Willie B for me.
And that saves me the one that I wanted outside of the 5 and the 11. We talked about the advanced metrics earlier when it came to his restarts. I think it's going to work this week and this year. Give me MTJ, who was also running up front last year and very well could have won that race.
There's my pick number 3. Good one. Yep. Love it.
It's gonna be an interesting week. Darlington is one of those ones you can throw up in the air because crazier stuff just always happens there. But that is gonna wrap it up for the preview. All that's left is a super chat stage break. Thank you guys so much for bearing with us. Let's just jump right into it, guys. You cool with that? Yeah. Cy Supersonic for the 5. After Kansas, I don't ever want to hear anyone tell me F1 is better than NASCAR. NASCAR on a bad day still puts a better show on than F1 on a good day. True. Very true. And of course, now is when the super chats reset on me. Cavante Caldwell for the 10. I think we are finally seeing the final version of Larson. He's not just fast, but he's consistent. Definitely spells trouble for the field. A new big 3.
The final form of Kyle Larson. I love that.
I don't think it's even the final form yet, man. That's the scary part. Carlito Newt for the 2. Vince Welch. Brett Moffitt is back. Creed. GN NASCAR fan for the 10. Whoever thought that Kansas was a bad race needs to be locked up in a padded room and studied for scientific purposes so that if anyone suffers from negativism, they can be cured. RIP NASCAR Race Hub. That's right. Race Hub their death date has been announced.
Yeah.
It'll be the Tuesday before Iowa, which is it's when their contract ends for the current deal. Bobby Blair for the 2. Fire James Small. I think we have a few that disagree with that on this panel. Bruce, thank you for the 5. Makes me laugh to hear it's Denny's year yet again. He always fails to perform in the championship moments. He's a choker until he proves otherwise.
Dang. I thought it was a little weird of Fox sort of forcing him to like call his shot for the championship again this year. I'm
Yeah.
like, man doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to bring that bad juju on him, but they kind of like backed him into a wall.
Yeah,
Kinda
Chris
weird.
Myers here. When I'm not looking at crappy NFC North games, I'm in front of a NASCAR race. Timmy Wolf for the 13-month member chat. Hope McDowell does well with Spire next year. 34 ever. Nice. Alex, thank you for the 20. To anyone who's considering getting a 1/18th Garage 56 car, don't do it. It's made of cursed material known as resin, meaning it won't have any openings. As a die-cast car collector, that really chapped my ass.
Interesting.
That's not a die cast. It's a plastic model, basically.
Wow.
Nas Carson, thank you for the 5 and the 10 here. Grant, I was in North Carolina last week, and I appreciate Matt Kenza taking a photo with me at Legacy Motor Club last week.
Nice. Jealous.
Yeah,
He's around a lot. He's there.
it's good to know. I miss Matt at the track. I'm watching old races and his interviews. I miss that. Nas Carson for the other one here. Anybody going to Darlington this week? I went in 2014, 2020 for the Southern 500. 4-1, 2022 Goodyear 400, 22-1. I survived the weather for 2019's Hurricane Southern 500 and the 21. What Darlington races have we been to? Me and Danny, I think it's only last year when this happened.
Yeah, just last year.
I was there last year. I was at the 21 Southern 500. That was the original wall ride. And I feel like I was at one more. I was at the throwback race in 22 as well.
Shadowfire Sin for the 5. Not a single Penske or JGR true throwback. 19 and 20 look like alt normal schemes. Outside of like Hendrick and Legacy Motor Club, it's been super meh, to be honest. I thought it's been pretty good this year, honestly.
I thought it was pretty good, but yeah, 2 of like the 3 or 4 best teams in the sport doing like no throwbacks basically is definitely a bummer.
Sleeve for the 14-month member chat. Priest's car cover doesn't have the new SHR branding either. I think he's the black sheep at this point. Alex for the 2. Glad and humbled to hear you like your sketch. Thank you, Alex. I do, and I have it right there above the little 164 cases that I have. I really like it. Sleeve for the 5. If Front Row and SHR mix, they'd be for sure. For sure,
Yeah.
Racing kind of goes hard. Goes hard. Real talk. I mean, it would take some getting used to. Shadowfire
For sure.
Sin for 2. What happens with Colleague for 25? I wouldn't be surprised if they go down to 1 car personally.
I could see them. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do. They could sell both.
Yeah, I
Might
think
hold on to
they'll
one.
just get out of the Cup Series.
Yeah, I could see that. But I don't know.
Another Eric here for 2. Sorry, Ryan Priest, you're not invited.
Yeah, tough.
Oh, I like this one. Sleeve for the 2. Put what we can call the Andy's Frozen Custard Noah Gregson one. Call it Noah's Ark and put animal cookies in it.
I saw that. That's not a
like
bad
that.
idea.
That's a good idea. Austin Bland set with a couple here. Can you make an argument for Johnny Benson being in the Hall of Fame? He has a Busch and truck title. He's a Cup winner, and he's always competing. I think lower level wise, he could. Probably.
Yeah, if they go with your idea, maybe eventually. But under the current criteria, I think it would be very tough.
And then Austin also said, quote, this isn't political. It's actually factual that EVs, oil-wise, are actually worse for the environment than gas-powered cars as the batteries are ridiculous. Plus, they he says that they objectively suck. I will say it is true. The amount of oil burned off to actually make electric cars, I think, is actually more than gas-powered cars. Shadowfire Sin for the 5. Barry and Gregson go with Stewart to Chevy. Briscoe is not a Stewart guy on 100%. Hot take, Briscoe to the 3rd 2311 car. Shades of Reddick with a bombshell move.
I don't think that happens.
I think he'd stick with Ford. He's been a Ford pipeline guy.
Yeah, I think he's glued to Ford for the time being. Maybe I'm wrong.
Hunter Nixon fishing for the 5. I agree with what Hamlin said a few weeks ago in Actions Detrimental. A championship round would make more sense than hanging the season on one race. I don't think NASCAR's going to do that, though, when they want moments to be for sure to come down to the final moments.
Yeah. I kind of wish they'd work a 3-race final round in there, but I don't see it happening.
Shadowfire sent with a couple more here. 1 million view Eric video, JRM to Cup.
They could.
It's been a long time in the making. And then also says, I think Haas is leaving NASCAR. It fits selling property rumors that are going about. Joe Custer and Cole Custer to Furniture Row. Stewart will stay with the sport, but not Ford. I know he's not a fan of Ford at this point anymore.
I can see that. That's a very plausible conclusion.
Did you say Furniture Row or you mean Front Row?
Front row. We're almost 3 hours in. I'm just trying to get to the finish line, man. Speedway Anywhere for the 5. You forgot to mention the main reason Stenhouse will make the Hall of Fame. He's the only driver ever to be dumped by Danica Patrick.
What an accomplishment.
I think it's an accomplishment just to not have to be locked with her forever.
Well, she failed at dumping Lennon Castle, so.
Dumped Aaron Rodgers. Alex for the 2. Denny Hamlin is the unlikable Mark Martin.
The unlikable Mark Martin. God, he needs to put that on a t-shirt.
He should. Mark Martin would find it funny. 2 more here. Napa Racing Fan 927 for the 5. Get the crying towels out. Race Hub was the best produced NASCAR and Fox content, better than races, unfortunately. Rest in peace to the last remaining Speed show. I know that does suck. I miss Speed. And then Shorty PJM for the 5. Been very busy. Graduated, I believe it's the University of South Carolina, so the Gamecocks, on Saturday. And then had my BFA first art show yesterday. Plus, I could have been going to Darlington, but Mom said no. Go Bubba Wallace. Well, I'd say that that's been a pretty busy week and a great place to end. Congratulations on graduation and your art show as well. And guys, we have hit the finish line. It's been a night. This has probably been the longest show I think we've done in like 5 years.
Thanks for sticking with us, Grant. Yeah, you joined us on a packed week.
Well, I'm sorry if I held you up at all with the extra information, but I enjoyed it. It's been a blast. The fact that there's 300 or 430 of y'all still listening, you guys are crazy. That's amazing. So thanks for sticking it out with us. Thanks for having us.
Don't worry about the stats part. I have a shirt that says Stat Man, and I love hearing it. I love hearing it.
It's good. A lot of good stuff you brought tonight. We appreciate
no
it.
Jam Plays games. This is not a record. I'm pretty sure we've had way longer than this before.
Yeah, we had a 3.5 hour one before.
The People's Race Hub.
NWP. I mean, maybe any Race Hub refugees, you are welcome here. We appreciate your presence here.
Coming next to your NASCAR daily podcast.
Yeah, we'll fill that 5 to 6 or whatever, that 6 o'clock slot.
But guys, real quick, I'm going to take the ticker off and let you know next week, be sure to be on Eric's channel in 6 days, May 15th on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We will be having our buddy Slapshoes come on and seeing how Darlington's his home track, and he is the throwback YouTuber going into Wilkesboro. It's going to be a lot of fun hearing from him, but it's been a fun night. I appreciate it. I think I can say for Danny and I, we both appreciate the kind words and thoughts that everyone gave us yesterday. We're going to more than likely not have a moment like that probably ever again, knock on wood.
The tornado stayed southeast of us, but man, there is some flooding hazards all around where we live. Old Hickory Lake and the Cumberland River are way above their usual level right now.
Yeah. So thank you guys for waiting it out and both yesterday and today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, have a good one. Later, y'all.
Drivers, start your engines!
Green flag, all rolling. All the way out. Stay in, come on. Bye-bye, Sonny. See you later. These guys are really good. Keep digging, stay in the gas. Hang on, dude, baby. Did not hit a thing. Why you wait so long, man?
The tornado stayed south.
Flag, hit your mark.